The chevron locked with its characteristic mechanical thunk, and Samantha Carter watched the seventh symbol slide into place on her tablet readout. Standard gate activation to P4X639, an uninhabited world where MALP telemetry had detected unusual energy readings near what appeared to be ancient ruins. Another routine reconnaissance mission, except the energy signature didn't match any known ancient technology in their database, and the waveform analysis showed patterns that made her physicist's brain itch with impossible questions. SG-1, you have a go, General Hammond's voice crashed through the gate room speakers. Jack O'Neill adjusted his P90 and glanced at his team with that familiar expression that said probably nothing, but bring extra ammunition anyway. Daniel Jackson was already muttering about architectural layouts, his fingers dancing over his tablet as he compared the MALP images to ancient dialects. TLC simply raised an eyebrow, his version of enthusiastic anticipation. The wormhole's shimmering blue surface rippled as they stepped through, and Carter felt the familiar moment of molecular disassembly and reassembly across thousands of light-years. They emerged on a world bathed in the amber light of a dying sun, the DHD behind them surrounded by crumbling stone structures that bore the elegant, mathematical precision of ancient construction. But something was wrong with the sky. Carter. O'Neill's voice carried that tone that meant he'd noticed it too. She looked up. Through the thin atmosphere, a massive shape hung in low orbit, a vessel that made her breath catch in her throat. It wasn't Goa'uld, the design language was completely wrong. Not Asgard either. The hull configuration resembled something impossibly familiar, a silhouette that triggered memories of history documentaries and museum visits. A warship, sleek and predatory, with lines that spoke of Earth's naval heritage translated into something that had no business existing in space. Daniel, please tell me you're seeing what I'm seeing, Carter said, her scientific training warring with the evidence of her own eyes. That can't be, Daniel's voice trailed off. He zoomed his binoculars in on the vessel, and Carter saw his face go pale. Jack, that's a battleship. A World War II battleship. In orbit. I can see that, Daniel. I'm more concerned with what a Yamato-class battleship is doing in our galaxy when the last one was sunk in 1945. TLC tilted his head, studying the vessel with tactical precision. The dimensions are consistent with the Tauri vessel you describe, O'Neill. However, the hull configuration has been modified extensively. Energy emissions suggest advanced propulsion systems and what appears to be a formidable main weapon housed in the forward section. Carter's scanner went wild with readings. General, we have a problem. That ship is generating energy signatures that are off the charts. The waveform matches the anomalous readings we detected from the surface, but there's something else, there's ancient technology involved somehow. The energy matrix looks like it's interfacing with the ruins below us. The ancient outpost stretched before them, a series of concentric platforms descending into what might have been a hangar or dock facility millions of years ago. And standing at the center, near a still-glowing control console that pulsed with soft blue light, were people. Humans, dressed in uniforms that definitely weren't SGC issue, standing in disciplined formation around a central figure whose bearing screamed military command. O'Neill raised his P90 slightly, not quite aiming but definitely ready. Folks, I'm going to need you to identify yourselves. And maybe explain what you're doing at an ancient outpost that's been dead for a few million years. The central figure, a young man with commander's insignia and eyes that carried the weight of impossible journeys, stepped forward. His hand rested on a weapon at his hip, but he made no move to draw it. When he spoke, his voice carried the precise cadence of someone who'd given orders under fire and expected them to be followed. I am Captain Susumu Kodai of the Earth Defense Force Battleship Yamato. We received a distress signal from these coordinates, a message that claimed Earth was under attack. When we followed the signal through what we thought was a spatial anomaly, we found ourselves here. In this place. With no way back to our Earth, and instruments telling us we're somehow in a different version of our own galaxy. Carter's mind raced through the implications. Alternate timeline. Parallel universe. The ancients had possessed knowledge of such things, but accessing dimensional barriers required technology they'd barely scratched the surface of understanding. Yet here stood proof that someone, or something, had managed exactly that. Different version. Daniel stepped forward, his diplomatic instincts overriding tactical caution. Captain Kodai, I'm Dr. Daniel Jackson. This is Colonel Jack O'Neill, Major Samantha Carter, and TLC. We're from Earth, this Earth. The planet you're seeing through your scopes is designated P4X639, and you've just stumbled into what we call the Stargate program. That gate behind us connects thousands of worlds across this galaxy. Kodai's expression shifted through surprise to something like hope, then settled into cautious assessment. Then the Earth you represent, it still stands. Not burned by radiation, not dying beneath radioactive clouds. Very much alive, O'Neill said. Though we've had our share of close calls. Captain, that ship of yours, the Yamato, I'm guessing it's not just for show. The Yamato was rebuilt from the wreckage of Japan's greatest battleship for a mission to save our dying Earth, Kodai replied. We traveled 148,000 light-years to the planet Iskander to retrieve technology that could cleanse our world of radiation. We succeeded. But when that distress call came, claiming Earth was under attack again, we couldn't ignore it. Even if it meant risking another impossible journey. Carter caught O'Neill's eye. The story had the ring of truth to it, and the energy reading supported the claim of advanced FTL capability. But there were other concerns. Captain, our scans are detecting what appears to be an extremely powerful weapon system in your ship's forward section. Something that generates energy signatures comparable to, well, to technologies we've only seen deployed by extremely advanced civilizations. Some of which were capable of destroying planets. The weight of that statement hung in the amber-tinted air. Kodai didn't flinch, but something in his eyes acknowledged the terrible truth. The wave motion gun. Yes. It's capable of destroying a planet if fired at full power. We've used it 3 times in our journey, each time as a last resort when our survival and Earth's future hung in the balance. It's not a weapon we employ lightly, Colonel O'Neill. The ethical weight of possessing such power, it never leaves you. TLC inclined his head slightly, a gesture of respect between warriors. There is honor in restraint, Captain Kodai. Many who possess such power wield it without conscience. Indeed, O'Neill said, then caught himself. Sorry, that's usually his line. Look, Captain, I believe you're the good guys here. But that ship of yours just lit up every sensor in this sector. And in this galaxy, there are a lot of very bad people with very big fleets who are going to want either to claim that vessel or destroy it before you become a threat. We need to get you back to our base, brief our command, and figure out what happens next. Because trust me, what happens next is usually someone shooting at us. Kodai turned to confer with his officers, a tactical officer with steady eyes, an engineer who was already analyzing the ancient console, and a young woman whose bearing suggested both medical expertise and personal connection to the captain. Their conversation was rapid, professional, and concluded with nods of agreement. We accept your offer, Colonel. But the Yamato cannot be left unmanned, and we cannot abandon our crew. If you can provide coordinates, we can establish a defensive position while representatives from both our forces negotiate proper first contact protocols. Carter was already working the problem. General Hammond, are you getting this? We need to bring Captain Kodai and a small delegation through the gate. His ship needs coordinates for a secure location. I'm thinking we could provide them with the coordinates for a deep space position near the Takare boundary. Remote enough to avoid immediate Goa'uld attention, but close enough that we can respond if things go wrong. Hammond's response came through clearly, his voice carrying the calm authority of a commander who'd seen the impossible become routine. Agreed, Major. Captain Kodai, on behalf of the United States Air Force and the Stargate program, I'm extending an invitation to visit Earth. Our Earth. I think we have a lot to discuss. The ancient outpost hummed around them, the console's light pulsing in rhythm with the Yamato's distant energy signature. As SG-1 and Kodai's team began coordinating the transfer, Carter couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just opened a door that couldn't be closed. Somewhere in the galaxy, sensors were tracking that energy signature. Somewhere, a System Lord was taking notice. And somewhere, something ancient and terrible was stirring with interest. The Yamato had awakened the Stargate universe, and the echoes of that awakening would ripple across the stars in ways none of them could yet predict. But looking at Kodai's determined expression, at the way his crew moved with disciplined purpose, Carter felt something unexpected: hope. Earth had built one warship to defend against the Goa'uld. Now, impossibly, they had two. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Indeed. The briefing room at Stargate Command felt smaller than usual with the additional presence of the Yamato's delegation. Captain Kodai sat across from General Hammond, flanked by his chief engineer Sanada and tactical officer Shima, while SG-1 occupied their usual positions. The wall screen displayed an image of the Yamato in high orbit over a barren moon, its distinctive hull gleaming under the light of a distant star. Hammond studied the image with the practiced eye of a career military officer. "Captain, I've reviewed Major Carter's preliminary reports on your vessel's capabilities. I have to admit, in my 30 years of service, I've seen some remarkable things. Ancient city ships, Asgard motherships, Goa'uld Hotaks. But a World War II battleship converted into an interstellar warship." He shook his head slightly. "That's a new one." Kodai leaned forward, his hands folded on the table. "General Hammond, I understand your skepticism. In my universe, we faced similar disbelief when the project was first proposed. The Yamato was a symbol, Japan's greatest battleship, sunk in the final days of the war. To raise it from the ocean floor and transform it into humanity's last hope seemed impossible. But when you're facing extinction, impossible becomes merely difficult. Your Earth was dying." Daniel asked, his academic curiosity fully engaged. "You mentioned radiation. What happened?" "Alien attack," Shima replied, his voice tight with memory. "The Gamala's empire bombarded our planet with radioactive meteorites. Within a year, the surface became uninhabitable. Humanity retreated underground, but the radiation was seeping deeper. We had perhaps 1 year left when the message from Iskander arrived, a promise of technology that could save us." 148,000 light-years, Carter said, reviewing her notes. "That's... Captain, the wave motion engine in your ship must be operating on principles we haven't even theorized. Our fastest ships, the Asgard vessels, can cross a galaxy in days, but the distances you're describing would require technology that bends spacetime in ways that should create catastrophic instabilities." Sanada adjusted his glasses, and Carter recognized the expression of a fellow engineer about to discuss something fascinating. "The wave motion engine doesn't travel through space, Major. It manipulates dimensional phase variance to create a tunnel through subspace. We're not moving through distance, we're stepping outside of it temporarily. The theoretical framework came from Iskander, but our engineers spent months making it practical." "Subspace compression," Carter breathed. That would explain the energy signatures we detected. Your engine is creating microdimensional rifts, and when it interacted with the ancient technology at that outpost, it created a bridge between dimensions," Sanada finished. "We theorized something similar might have happened. The distress signal we received was broadcasting on frequencies that shouldn't exist in normal space. When we followed it, the wave motion engine resonated with something at those coordinates. The ancient technology, as you call it." Hammond held up a hand. "Fascinating as this is, we need to address the immediate situation. Captain Kodai, your ship is currently holding position in a remote sector, but our intelligence network has picked up increased Goa'uld communications traffic in adjacent regions. They're searching for the source of what they're calling an unknown energy signature of significant power. It won't take them long to triangulate your position." "The Goa'uld," Kodai said, testing the word. Colonel O'Neill briefed us during the transport. Parasitic aliens who claim to be gods and enslave human populations. They control much of this galaxy. The majority of it, yes, TLC confirmed. Though their power has been declining in recent years due to internal conflicts and the Jaffa Rebellion. However, do not mistake diminished influence for weakness. A single system lord commands fleets that could devastate entire worlds. Kodai's expression hardened. Then they're no different from the Gamalas. Another empire built on subjugation and false supremacy. General Hammond, our mission has always been to protect Earth and humanity. If this is another Earth, another humanity facing extinction from alien tyranny, then we have a moral obligation to assist. I appreciate the sentiment, Captain, Hammond said carefully. But I need you to understand what you'd be involving yourselves in. The Goa'uld aren't just military threats. They're politicians, manipulators, and they've been playing power games for thousands of years. They'll see your ship as either a prize to be captured or a threat to be eliminated. Probably both. O'Neill cleared his throat. Plus there's the small matter of the wave motion gun. Captain, I've read the technical brief Carter put together. That weapon could crack a planet like an egg. In this galaxy, that kind of firepower makes you either a very valuable ally or an extinction-level problem, depending on who's making the assessment. We understand the weight of what we carry, Colonel, Kodai said quietly. Every member of my crew understands. We've fired the wave motion gun 3 times. Twice at enemy fleets that left us no choice, once at a dimensional rift that threatened to consume our solar system. Each time, we knew we were using a weapon that violated every principle of proportional force. But each time, the alternative was the death of everyone we'd sworn to protect. The room fell silent. Carter saw something in Hammond's eyes, recognition, perhaps, of the impossible choices that came with command. She'd made similar decisions herself, had activated ancient weapons knowing the destructive potential, because the alternative was Earth's destruction. There's another issue, Carter said, breaking the silence. The ancient outpost where you arrived, I've been analyzing the data we collected. That facility wasn't just a way station or research post. The power system suggests it was designed as some kind of dimensional gateway or beacon. The ancients rarely built anything without purpose, and dimensional technology was something they explored extensively before ascending. Daniel pulled up a series of images on the screen, ancient text carved into the outpost's walls. These inscriptions reference something called the Bridge of 10,000 Paths. It's fragmentary, but the translation suggests the ancients built that facility to study or contact alternate realities. If Captain Kodai's ship resonated with that technology, then someone built a door between universes, Sonata finished. And we came through it. The question is whether that door is still open, and whether anyone else can use it. Hammond's expression grew grave. Major Carter, I want a full analysis of that outpost within 24 hours. If there's even a possibility that the Goa'uld could access dimensional technology, it would be catastrophic, Carter agreed. A system lord with access to alternate realities could recruit armies, steal technology, or simply find alternate Earths to conquer. We need to either secure that site or destroy it. The Yamato can provide support, Kodai offered. We have ground forces trained for planetary operations, and our ship's weapons can provide orbital support if needed. O'Neill leaned back in his chair. Okay, so we've got interdimensional technology possibly lying around like loaded guns, a battleship from another universe that every Goa'uld in the sector wants to dissect, and the usual Tuesday afternoon apocalypse to prevent. Anyone else feeling nostalgic for the simple days when we just shot snakeheads and came home for beer? Despite the tension, Shima smiled slightly. Colonel, I understand your humor is a coping mechanism. We employ similar tactics aboard the Yamato. Captain Kodai once joked that if we survived our journey to Iskander, we should write a book titled, How to Almost Die in Space, a Practical Guide. I like him already, O'Neill muttered. Hammond stood, and everyone in the room immediately came to attention, even Kodai's team, responding to the universal language of military protocol. Gentlemen, Dr. Jackson, we're in uncharted territory here. Captain Kodai, I'm offering a provisional alliance between the Stargate program and the crew of the Yamato. We'll share intelligence, coordinate defensive operations, and work together to secure that ancient outpost. In exchange, I'm asking that you and your crew submit to a full security evaluation and allow Major Carter's team to study your ship systems, purely from a defensive integration standpoint. Kodai stood as well, his posture mirror perfect. General Hammond, on behalf of my crew, I accept. We came to this universe looking for an Earth to save. It appears we found one that's worth fighting for. The Yamato is at your disposal. The two commanders shook hands, and Carter felt the weight of the moment. Two Earths, two militaries built from desperation and duty, now linked by ancient technology and shared purpose. But as she watched Kodai's confident expression, she couldn't shake her concern about what else might be paying attention to the Yamato's energy signature. Somewhere in the galaxy, in the throne room of a Hatak mothership, sensors had already compiled a report. Somewhere, a System Lord was reading about an unknown vessel with power readings that rivaled ancient weapons. And somewhere much closer, in the cold mathematics of half-ascended consciousness, something ancient and terrible had taken notice of dimensional barriers growing thin. The Yamato had entered their universe, but Carter had a sinking feeling that the real question wasn't what had drawn them here, it was who had been waiting for them to arrive. The Prometheus hung in space 300,000 kilometers from the Yamato, and Colonel William Ronson couldn't quite believe what his forward sensors were showing him. He'd commanded Earth's first capital ship for 8 months now, had faced down Goa'uld cruisers and navigated through hyperspace storms, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. Tactical, confirm those readings, he said, studying the main view screen where the Yamato rotated slowly in a standard defensive posture. Confirmed, sir, Lieutenant Evans replied. Energy output from their primary weapon system is reading at approximately 3.2 terawatts in standby mode. If Major Carter's calculations are correct, at full charge we're looking at energy levels comparable to a Goa'uld Hatak's main batteries, concentrated into a single firing solution. Ronson whistled low. One gun with the punch of an entire mothership. How are we supposed to integrate that into fleet tactics? From the communications station, Sam Carter's voice crackled through. She'd transported over to the Yamato 30 minutes ago with SG-1 to begin the technical assessment. Colonel Ronson, you're not going to believe this, but their fire control systems are still partially mechanical. They've got Naquata equivalent power generation, dimensional phase engines, and energy shielding, but their targeting computers are using technology that's maybe 50 years ahead of what we had in the 1990s. Is that a problem, Major? Actually, it might be an advantage. Their systems are robust, redundant, and remarkably resistant to electromagnetic interference. The Goa'uld won't be able to hack or disable their weapons the way they've tried with Prometheus. But Colonel, there's something else. Their chief engineer, Sonata, just showed me the wave motion engine core. It's beautiful. The dimensional compression fields are self-stabilizing through a feedback loop that shouldn't work according to our understanding of physics, but it does. And when I showed him our Naquata reactor schematics, he immediately identified 3 ways we could increase efficiency by 17%. Ronson smiled despite himself. He'd heard the edge of excitement in Carter's voice when she encountered truly novel engineering. Recommendations, Major? Let them keep their autonomy, but start cross-training immediately. Sonata's team can teach us about dimensional mechanics, and we can show them how Naquata-based systems interface with ancient technology. If we can merge our technical knowledge. An alarm cut through her words. Evans's fingers flew across his console. Sir, we have incoming hyperspace windows. Multiple contacts, bearing 273 Mark V. Configuration matches Goa'uld Alkesh bombers, count as 6, no, 8 vessels. They're launching gliders. Battle stations. Ronson snapped. Get Carter and SG-1 back here now. Helm, put us between those bombers and the Yamato. Weapons, warm up the railguns and ready missile tubes 1 through 4. On the Yamato's bridge, alarms shrieked in Japanese as Shima's tactical board lit up with hostile contacts. Kodai was already in the captain's chair, his command presence filling the bridge like a physical force. Battle stations. Shima, tactical analysis. Sanada, shield status. Communications, contact the Prometheus, coordinate our defense. 8 bomber-class vessels and approximately 40 smaller fighters, Shima reported, his fingers dancing across his console. Energy signatures match the profile Stargate command provided for Goa'uld technology. They're spreading into attack formation, flanking vectors targeting both our vessel and the Prometheus. Shields at maximum, Sanada called out. Wave motion engine is stable. Wave motion gun is charged to 30%, we can have full power in 90 seconds if needed, Captain. Kodai's jaw tightened. The wave motion gun. Always the temptation, the easy solution that came with impossible moral weight. 8 bombers weren't worth destroying a planet for. Negative on the wave motion gun. Bring shock cannons and torpedo tubes online. Fighter squadrons, prepare to launch. We defend alongside the Prometheus, make sure they know we're on their side. On Prometheus, Ronson watched the Yamato's fighter bay doors iris open, and sleek craft began launching in disciplined formation. They moved nothing like death gliders, more like atmospheric fighters adapted for space combat, with maneuvering thrusters that suggested remarkable agility. Their fighters are launching, Sir, Evans reported. Configuration unknown, but their formation discipline is excellent. They're moving to intercept the glider screen while their main guns target the Alkesh. Then let's not let them do all the work, Ronson said. Weapons free. Target the lead bomber and show them what Earth can do. The void lit up with weapons fire. Prometheus's railgun spat depleted uranium slugs at relativistic velocities, punching through the lead Alkesh's shields in a cascade of explosive decompression. Missiles streaked across the gap, their contrails brilliant against the black. The Yamato's shock cannons, whatever technology drove them, fired brilliant blue-white bolts that hammered into Goa'uld shields with devastating precision. Carter watched from the Yamato's observation deck, her scientific mind cataloging everything even as the battle raged. The shock cannons used some kind of charged particle acceleration, but the containment fields were unlike anything in Earth's current arsenal. Each shot carried enough kinetic force to crater a mountainside, delivered with surgical accuracy that spoke to advanced targeting algorithms. Major Carter, Sanada appeared at her elbow, calm despite the ship shaking from near misses. Your vessel fights well. Efficient, tactical. But I notice your shields fluctuate significantly under sustained fire. Asgard shield technology, Carter explained, gripping a railing as another impact rocked the Yamato. It's effective but power-intensive. We're still learning how to balance shield strength with weapons output and engine power. The Yamato uses a different approach, dimensional phase shielding. We don't stop the energy, we shift it slightly out of phase with our hull. Less power-intensive, but vulnerable to weapons that can match our phase variance. Sanada pulled up a holographic display. I'm sending you the technical specifications. Perhaps together, we can develop something more robust. Carter's eyes widened as the data streamed to her tablet. The implications were staggering. A hybrid shield system that combined phase variance with traditional energy absorption could revolutionize Earth's defensive capabilities. An explosion nearby snapped her attention back to the battle. 3 Yamato fighters, Kodai had called them Cosmo Falcons, had engaged a squadron of death gliders in a knife fight that defied her understanding of space combat physics. The Falcons moved like atmospheric craft, rolling and diving with impossible grace, their pulse cannons stitching fire across glider wings. 2 Goa'uld fighters disintegrated under the onslaught, the third broke off, only to fly directly into a Prometheus missile's kill zone. SG-1, this is Prometheus, Ronson's voice cut through Carter's radio. We've cleared the fighter screen, but those Alkesh are regrouping. They're charging weapons for a coordinated strike. Looks like they're targeting the Yamato specifically. O'Neill's voice came back immediately. Ronson, can you interpose? Negative, Colonel. We're out of position, and our shields are at 60%. If those bombers fire together. Captain Kodai, Shima's voice was urgent. All 8 Alkesh are targeting us. Coordinated plasma torpedoes, impact in 20 seconds. Our shields can handle perhaps 3 simultaneous strikes, but 8. Kodai's mind raced through tactical options. Evasive maneuvers wouldn't work, the Yamato was too large, too slow to dodge 8 separate torpedo spreads. They could target the bombers, but not quickly enough to stop all the torpedoes. The wave motion gun could eliminate all 8 vessels instantly, but the moral calculus, using a planet killer on 8 ships, even enemy ships. Captain, 15 seconds, Shima warned. Then TLC's voice cut through the tactical chatter, calm and certain. Captain Kodai, concentrate your fire on the leftmost bomber. Prometheus will target the right flank. Create a gap in their formation. Kodai saw it immediately, the Jaffa warriors' tactical insight born from decades of combat. If they could eliminate the coordination, force the remaining bombers to adjust their firing solution. All forward batteries, target the portside bomber. Shock cannons, fire. The Yamato's guns spoke as one, blue-white fury that overwhelmed the Alkesha's shields and cored through its hull like paper. Simultaneously, Prometheus's railguns hammered into 2 bombers on the opposite flank, disabling one and destroying the other. The remaining 5 Alkesh lost their firing synchronization, their torpedoes launching in a ragged spread that Shima's tactical computers could actually plot evasion courses around. Helm, Vector 187, Z-axis positive 60 degrees. Kodai commanded. Sonata, rotate shields to starboard ventral. The great ship rolled, its dimensional phase shields concentrating on the threat axis. Plasma torpedoes streaked past, 3 missing entirely, 1 glancing off shields, 1 penetrating through to score a hit on the secondary hull. Damage reports flooded in, Section 17, minimal casualties, fires contained. Now, Kodai said quietly. All ships, converge fire. End this. What followed wasn't a battle, it was an execution. Prometheus and Yamato, working in concert, targeted the remaining bombers with methodical precision. The Cosmo Falcons hunted down the last scattered gliders. Within 90 seconds, the engagement was over. The void held only debris and the cooling hulls of destroyed vessels. On Prometheus's bridge, Ronson let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Damage report. Shields at 43%. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7, sealed. Railgun capacitors need 20 minutes to recharge. Sir, the Yamato. Ronson studied the other ship through his view screen. Scarred but intact, its engines glowing with that strange dimensional energy. Hail them. And someone get me a damage assessment. Kodai's face appeared on the screen, and Ronson saw the same exhaustion he felt mirrored in the other captain's eyes. Prometheus, this is Yamato. We're intact. Minimal casualties. Your tactical coordination, it was excellent. Likewise, Captain. That's some ship you've got there. As is yours, Colonel. Kodai paused. But I believe we both know what this attack means. Whoever sent those bombers now knows we're here and that we're allied with Earth. This was a probe, a test of our capabilities. Agreed, Ronson said grimly. Which means the next attack will be bigger. And they'll bring enough firepower to make sure we can't fight back. Carter's voice came through from the Yamato. Sirs, I hate to add to the bad news, but my analysis of their attack pattern suggests something troubling. Those Alkesh came from the same vector as that ancient outpost, and their approach vectors were too precise. I think someone's been watching that facility, waiting to see what came through. And now they know. In the silence that followed, Kodai looked at the star field where the battle had raged. Somewhere out there, a System Lord was reviewing battle footage, analyzing the Yamato's capabilities, calculating the potential of claiming such a vessel. Somewhere, decisions were being made about fleets to deploy and strategies to employ. The Yamato had proven it could fight alongside Earth's defenders. But Carter's words echoed in Kodai's mind, the next attack would be bigger. And in this galaxy of false gods and ancient weapons, bigger might mean overwhelming. His crew had traveled 148,000 light-years to save one Earth. Now they faced the prospect of defending another, in a war that spanned a galaxy and had raged for millennia. The wave motion engine hummed beneath his feet, the wave motion gun waited in its forward mount, and outside, the stars held threats he was only beginning to understand. But looking at the Prometheus, at Earth's first defender flying alongside them, Kodai felt something solidify in his chest. Purpose. Direction. The mission hadn't ended when they'd returned to their Earth. It had only expanded to encompass a wider definition of humanity, a broader responsibility to protect the innocent from those who claimed divinity through tyranny. The Yamato had awakened this universe to new possibilities. Now they would face the consequences together. The Takare base on Ravana existed in a network of tunnels grown from living crystal, pulsing with bioluminescent light that cast everything in shades of amber and gold. Jacob Carter, or rather, Selmac, the Takare symbiote blended with him, stood in the council chamber watching the holographic tactical display with growing concern. His daughter Sam had transmitted the data 4 hours ago, and the implications were staggering. A vessel from another dimension, Garshaw said, her host's voice blending with the symbiote's deeper resonance. One that possesses a weapon capable of destroying planets. And it has announced its presence to every Goa'uld with functioning sensors. Not announced, Jacob corrected. Arrived. There's a difference. Captain Kodai didn't exactly choose to light up the galaxy like a neon sign. Intent is irrelevant, Parasitic interjected. What matters is that the System Lords are already moving. Our agents report that Baal has recalled 3 motherships from the Kelowna mining operations. You has dispatched scouts to investigate the energy signature. And Anubis. The pause said everything. Anubis, the half-ascended System Lord with ancient knowledge and technology that made him the most dangerous Goa'uld in millennia. If he took interest in the Yamato. Anubis has already triangulated their position, Jacob finished grimly. Of course he has. A weapon with ancient energy signatures. He probably wet himself with excitement. Your Tauri colloquialisms remain disturbing, Garshaw said, but there was no real reproach in her tone. Jacob, your daughter's report indicates this vessel's wave motion engine operates on principles similar to ancient dimensional technology. If Anubis could capture such a device, he'd have access to alternate realities, alternate timelines, and technology from dimensions the ancients themselves were afraid to explore, Jacob said. Yeah, I read Sam's report. 3 times. Each time it got more terrifying. On the Yamato's bridge, Kodai reviewed the latest intelligence brief from the Takare liaison who beamed aboard an hour ago. The holographic display showed the disposition of Goa'uld forces across the sector, and the picture wasn't encouraging. Red markers indicated System Lord fleets converging on their general region of space. Baal's forces from the galactic north, used from the core sectors, and an ominous blank space labeled Anubis, location unknown, presumed active. So we're the prize in a System Lord power grab, Shima said, studying the tactical plot. Multiple forces competing to claim us first. Or destroy us to deny the others, Sanada added. He stood at the engineering console, his fingers tracing calculations. Captain, if we attempted to use the wave motion engine to escape to another sector, we'd leave a dimensional wake that anything with sensors could follow, Carter said from her position at an auxiliary station. Hammond had assigned her as permanent liaison to the Yamato, and she'd spent the last 48 hours learning their systems while teaching them about Goa'uld capabilities. Your engine is incredible, but it's not stealthy. Every jump you make leaves a signature that lasts for hours. Then we stand and fight, Kodai said quietly. We've faced worse odds before. Daniel Jackson, who'd insisted on joining Carter aboard the Yamato to document the cultural exchange, looked up from his translation work. Actually, Captain, you haven't. Not like this. The Gamela's empire you fought, they were conquerors, yes, but they still operated within conventional rules of warfare. The Goa'uld are different. They'll use human shields, destroy entire planets to deny you resources, and they've had thousands of years to perfect psychological warfare. And Anubis, he glanced at Carter. Tell him. Carter's expression grew dark. Anubis was once a system lord who learned forbidden ancient knowledge and began the process of ascending, becoming an energy being like the ancients themselves. The other ascended being stopped him partway, leaving him trapped between forms. He has access to technology and knowledge that even the ancients feared, and he's utterly without mercy. If he takes an interest in your ship, he won't just want to capture it. He'll want to understand every aspect of how it works, and he doesn't care how many of your crew die in the process. The bridge fell silent. Kodai had faced enemies before, the Gamlas, the Comet Empire, dimensional threats that defied comprehension. But something in Carter's tone, the weight of experience behind Daniel's warning, made this feel different. This wasn't just another battle. This was a war of predators fighting over prey, and the Yamato had just become the most valuable prize in the galaxy. There is another option, TLC said from his position near the tactical station. The Jaffa warrior had taken to observing the Yamato's operations with keen interest, noting the parallels between their crew discipline and his own training. The Takare have extensive tunnel networks across multiple worlds. If the Yamato could be concealed. A ship this size? Shima shook his head. We'd need a moon-sized hollow asteroid or a planetary canyon thousands of meters deep. And even then, the energy signature. What about the ancient outpost? Daniel interrupted. The one where you arrived. Sam, you said that facility was designed for dimensional research. Could it mask the Yamato's signature? Carter considered it, her mind racing through the technical implications. Maybe. If we could power up the outpost's cloaking systems and integrate them with the Yamato's dimensional phase variants, but we'd need time to study the ancient systems, and we'd be trapped there while the Goa'uld closed in. A siege scenario, Kodai said. We make our stand at the outpost, use its defensive systems combined with our own. Buy time for your people to find a long-term solution. O'Neill's voice crackled through the comm system from the Prometheus, which was running parallel patrol 3,000 kilometers off their port bow. Kids, I'm going to throw a wrench into your planning session. We just picked up a hyperspace window opening in the outer system. Single contact, configuration matches a Hatak mothership. And before you ask, yes, we're pretty sure it's here for you. On the Yamato's forward view screen, the hyperspace window bloomed like a flower of impossible geometry, and from it emerged a vessel that dwarfed both Earth ships combined. The Hatak's golden pyramid hull caught the light of the system star, reflecting it in a display clearly meant to intimidate. Wings extended from the central structure, bristling with weapons batteries and fighter bays. Tactical analysis, Kodai ordered, his voice calm despite the threat. Goa'uld mothership, standard configuration, Shima reported. Length approximately 700 meters, estimated crew complement 1,500 to 2,000 including Jaffa warriors. Main weapons are plasma-based, effective range approximately 40,000 kilometers. They're launching gliders, count is 24 and rising. Sir, they're hailing us. On screen. The face that appeared made Carter suck in a breath. Pale skin, dark eyes that held malicious intelligence, and the distinctive headpiece of a system lord. But it was the voice, doubled with symbiote resonance, that sent ice down her spine. I am Lord Yu, eldest of the system lords and master of the Tauri sector. Unknown vessel, you possess technology that interests me greatly. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your crew will be taken as servants, and your ship will become part of my fleet. Resistance will be met with destruction. Kodai remained impassive. I am Captain Susumu Kodai of the battleship Yamato, representing Earth. We are not your subjects, and this ship will not be surrendered. Withdraw your forces, or we will defend ourselves. Yu's laugh was cold. Earth? There is only one Earth, and it already kneels before the might of the System Lords. You are either from that world and must be punished for defiance, or you are imposters using Earth's name. Either way, your arrogance will be corrected. You have 1 minute to comply. The screen went dark. Kodai looked at his crew, young faces, some of them, but hardened by their impossible journey to Iskander and back. They'd faced death before. They'd seen Earth burning, had fought through enemy fleets, had stared into the void and chosen to continue. This was just another battle, another false god who thought power made them divine. All hands, battle stations, Kodai said calmly. Shima, target their fighter formations first. Sanada, divert auxiliary power to shock cannons and forward shields. Yamamoto, launch Cosmo Falcons, establish defensive screen between us and that mothership. On Prometheus, Ronson was issuing similar orders. Helm, close to within firing range. Weapons, coordinate with the Yamato, we take the left flank, they take the right. And someone get SG-1 off that ship before the shooting starts. Negative, O'Neill's voice cut in. We're staying. The Yamato could use experienced fighters who know Goa'uld tactics. Carter was already at a weapons console, her fingers flying across Yamato controls that felt alien yet oddly intuitive. Colonel Ronson, the Yamato's shock cannons can penetrate Hatak shields if we coordinate fire. We focus on overloading specific shield segments while Prometheus exploits the gaps. Major, are you suggesting we teach these folks how to kill a Goa'uld mothership? I'm suggesting we learn from each other, sir. The Yamato has weapon systems we've never seen before. Time to find out what they can really do. Yu's minute expired. The Death Gliders screamed forward in attack formation, their wings glowing with charged weapons. The Hatak's main guns began tracking both Earth vessels, power building in capacitors designed to crack planetary shields. Shima, Kodai said quietly. Fire. The Yamato's shock cannon spoke first, brilliant blue-white bolts that crossed the void faster than conventional energy weapons. The lead formation of gliders disintegrated instantly, the Goa'uld pilots never even had time to evade. Prometheus's railguns added their voice to the symphony of destruction, while Cosmo Falcons launched in tight formation, their pulse cannons already firing. But Yu's mothership was firing too, and when a Hatak's main batteries opened up, the void itself seemed to burn. Plasma torpedoes, each one carrying enough energy to level a city, streaked toward both Earth vessels in overlapping waves. Evasive. Kodai ordered. Sanada, phase shift the shields, match the plasma frequency variance. The Yamato rolled, its bulk moving with surprising grace for something so large. The dimensional phase shield shimmered, and most of the plasma torpedoes passed through without connecting, shifted slightly out of phase with the ship's hull. But 3 struck true, and the Yamato shuddered under the impact. Shields at 76%, Sanada reported. Hull integrity holding. Captain, their weapons are more powerful than the Gamma's plasma cannons, each shot carries approximately 15% more energy. Then we don't let them keep shooting, Kodai said. He touched the comm system. Major Carter, what's the Hatak's primary vulnerability? Carter's response was immediate, years of tactical experience compressed into seconds. The shield generators are clustered around the central pyramid structure. If you can hit the same shield facing with sustained fire, you can create a cascade failure. But you need to maintain fire for at least 20 seconds. Shima, continuous fire on their forward shield facing. All shock cannons, maximum rate. Prometheus, concentrate your fire on the same point. What followed was a brutal test of engineering and will. The Yamato's shock cannons fired in rotation, never giving the Hatak's shields time to regenerate. Prometheus added railgun fire and missiles, kinetic and explosive force hammering the same weakening point. U's mothership returned fire desperately, plasma torpedoes and staff cannon blasts filling the space between the vessels with lethal energy. The Yamato's shields dropped to 50%, then 40%. Damage reports flooded in, fires on Deck 7, casualties in Section 12, power fluctuations in secondary systems. But Kodai's voice never wavered, and his crew responded with the iron discipline of those who'd already faced extinction and chosen to fight. 20 seconds, Carter counted. 19. 18. Their shields are fluctuating. The Hotak's forward shields failed in a cascade of golden energy, and suddenly U's mothership was naked to the void. Kodai saw the opening, saw the tactical computer calculate firing solutions, saw the moment crystallize into simple geometry of angles and timing. Torpedoes, he said. Full spread. Targeting their bridge and weapons batteries. The Yamato's torpedo tubes launched in sequence, conventional explosives wrapped in guidance systems that tracked toward the wounded Hotak with inexorable precision. Prometheus added missiles to the barrage. 23 projectiles converged on a single ship that suddenly had no defense. The explosions were visible even at this distance, atmosphere venting, secondary detonations as ammunition and fuel ignited, the distinctive flash of reactor containment failure. U's mothership broke apart in sections, its golden hull fragmenting into debris that would drift in this system for centuries. The remaining Death gliders broke off immediately, fleeing through hyperspace in the direction of their master's territory. The Cosmo Falcons let them go, there was no honor in shooting fleeing enemies, and ammunition was too precious to waste. Silence fell across both ships' bridges. Kodai stared at the debris field that had been a Goa'uld mothership 30 seconds ago. They'd killed thousands, Jaffa warriors, possibly human slaves pressed into service, perhaps even other hosts trapped in servitude. He'd given the order, and they'd died. Captain, Shima said quietly. We had no choice. They would have destroyed us, taken our ship, used it against other innocents. I know, Kodai replied. That doesn't make it easier. O'Neill's voice came through, uncharacteristically serious. Captain Kodai, for what it's worth, you just did what we've been doing for 7 years. Fighting wars we didn't start against enemies who give us no choice. Welcome to the Stargate program. It doesn't get any easier, but at least you're not fighting alone. On the Takare base, Jacob watched the battle telemetry with mixed emotions. The Yamato and Prometheus had destroyed a Hotak mothership, a feat that usually required either overwhelming force or exceptional luck. But now every system lord in the galaxy would know about it. They'd know that Earth had acquired a weapon capable of threatening their fleets. And Anubis, watching from whatever dark corner of the galaxy he inhabited, would be making plans. Because if there was one thing Anubis understood, it was the value of ancient technology. And he would want the Yamato for his own. The war for the battleship from another dimension had just begun. The ancient outpost on P4X-639 hummed with renewed life as SGC technical teams worked alongside Yamato engineers to restore long-dormant systems. Carter stood in the central control chamber, watching holographic displays flicker to life after millions of years of silence. The architecture spoke of ancient elegance, crystalline structures that grew organically from the stone, conduits that channeled power through pathways that resembled neural networks more than conventional wiring. This is remarkable, Sanada said, adjusting his glasses as he studied a power distribution node. The ancients built redundancy into every system. Even after eons of neglect, 70% of the facility's functions remain operational. If we can interface the Yamato's power systems with this network, we could create a defensive position that would make even Anubis think twice, Carter finished. She pulled up schematics on her tablet. The outpost has drone weapon platforms, shield emitters capable of protecting the entire valley, and sensors that can detect hyperspace windows opening 3 light-years away. But there's something else. Daniel, what did you make of those inscriptions in the lower chambers? Daniel climbed up from the access shaft, dust covering his glasses. They're fascinating. The ancients called this place Astria Porta Nexus, the Gate Nexus. It wasn't just a research facility for dimensional studies. It was a hub, a switching station for pathways between realities. The inscriptions reference bridges awaiting travelers and doors that open to those who seek other Earths. Other Earths, Kodai repeated. He stood near the chamber's entrance, watching his crew work alongside SGC personnel with growing respect. Language barriers dissolved when engineers spoke the universal dialect of technology. You're saying the ancients built this place specifically to contact alternate versions of Earth? Or to provide refuge if their Earth fell, Daniel said. The timeline is vague, but these inscriptions date from the period just before the ancient plague forced mass ascension. They were preparing for every contingency, including the possibility that their civilization might need to restart somewhere else. TLC emerged from a side corridor, his expression thoughtful. I have completed reconnaissance of the outpost's perimeter defenses. There are weapon emplacements built into the cliff faces, dormant, but functional once power is restored. However, I discovered something else. Evidence of recent activity. Footprints in the dust, disturbed equipment. Someone has been here within the past few weeks. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Carter's hand instinctively moved toward her sidearm. Goa'uld scouts. Unknown. The boot prints are human-sized, but the pattern does not match Jaffa standard issue. And there are symbols carved into one of the walls, fresh carvings, perhaps days old. TLC pulled out his camera and displayed the image. Daniel's face went pale. That's ancient script. But not historical ancient. Someone who knows the language carved this recently. It says, the half-ascended one knows. The bridge must close. Anubis, O'Neill said from the doorway, his P-90 held ready. So he knows about this place and what it can do. Anyone else getting that sinking feeling we're about to have really bad company? Kodai's command instincts kicked in immediately. How long until we can make this facility defensible? Sanada consulted his datapad. The Yamato can provide power to the outpost's primary systems within 6 hours. Full defensive capability, including the drone weapons and shields, requires perhaps 12 hours of continuous work. But Captain, once we activate everything, the energy signature will be visible across half the sector. A beacon, Shima said grimly. We'd be announcing our position to every Goa'uld fleet in range. We already announced it when we killed Yu's mothership, O'Neill pointed out. At this point, stealth is off the table. Question is whether we dig in here and make them bleed for every meter, or we run and hope we can find someplace safer. There is nowhere safer, Carter said, her voice carrying absolute certainty. This facility is the only place in the sector with ancient defensive technology powerful enough to stand against a System Lord assault. And if Anubis knows about the dimensional bridge technology here, we can't let him claim it. Can you imagine what he could do with access to alternate realities? Kodai walked to the central holographic display, studying the tactical situation. The Yamato hung in orbit above them, alongside Prometheus and a newly arrived Takare Teltak that had brought reinforcements and supplies. Against them, according to the latest Takare intelligence, 3 System Lord fleets were converging. Baal from the north with 5 Hataks, a Goa'uld named Alakan from the galactic east with 4 motherships, and somewhere in the void, Anubis with forces unknown. We make our stand here, Kodai said finally. Not because it's safe, but because it's necessary. If Anubis claims this technology, he threatens not just this Earth, but potentially every Earth across dimensional space. That's a risk we cannot accept. Agreed, Hammond's voice came through the radio link from Stargate Command. Captain Kodai, I'm authorizing full military cooperation between SGC forces and the Yamato. Colonel O'Neill, you'll coordinate ground defense of the outpost. Colonel Ronson, Prometheus will work with the Yamato to establish orbital superiority. We hold this position until we can either destroy the dimensional bridge technology or find a way to permanently secure it. Sir, with respect, we're talking about defending against potentially 14 motherships. Ronson's voice carried skepticism. The Yamato and Prometheus together destroyed one Hatak. What happens when Anubis shows up with a fleet? The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Everyone in the chamber knew the mathematics of it. 2 Earth ships against a System Lord Armada was suicide dressed up as tactics. Then Sanada cleared his throat. Colonel Ronson, there may be another option. The wave motion gun. The room went silent. Carter looked at Kodai, saw the weight settle onto his shoulders like a physical burden. The wave motion gun, the weapon that could crack planets, that had ended battles in single shots, that represented everything terrible about the power to destroy worlds. Explain, Kodai said quietly. The wave motion gun fires a concentrated dimensional wave, Sanada began, pulling up technical schematics. Its destructive power comes from destabilizing the atomic bonds of matter through phase variance collapse. But Major Carter and I have been discussing theoretical applications. What if, instead of firing at a target, we fired into the dimensional bridge itself? Carter's eyes widened with understanding. You'd create a dimensional shock wave, a pulse that would radiate outward through subspace. It wouldn't destroy ships, but it would disable hyperspace engines, disrupt shields, scramble sensors. Basically create a bubble of space where advanced technology stops working properly. For how long? O'Neill asked. Hours, possibly days depending on the power level, Sanada said. It would affect our own systems as well. The Yamato and Prometheus would need to shut down everything except life support and basic propulsion. But it would also leave any Goa'uld fleet that arrived dead in the water. Conventional weapons only, no hyperspace retreat, no shield regeneration. A technological equalizer, TLC said with something like approval. The Goa'uld rely upon superior technology to maintain dominance. Without it, Jaffa warriors must rely upon training and discipline. In such combat, Earth's forces have proven formidable. Kodai considered the implications. It meant using the wave motion gun, not to destroy, but to disable. A weapon designed for annihilation, repurposed for tactical advantage. The irony wasn't lost on him. There are risks, he said carefully. We've never fired the wave motion gun into a dimensional anomaly before. The feedback could damage the ship, or worse, it could destabilize the dimensional bridge in ways we can't predict. It could also tear a hole between realities, Daniel added nervously. If the dimensional barriers are already weakened here, and you pump that much energy into them, we might create a permanent gateway. Or collapse the barriers entirely. Then we take precautions, Carter said, her tactical mind already working the problem. We evacuate all non-essential personnel through the Stargate before the shot. We position the Yamato at maximum safe distance. And we set up monitoring equipment to detect any dimensional instabilities before they become catastrophic. O'Neill looked at Kodai. Captain, this is your call. It's your ship, your weapon, and I'm guessing your conscience that has to live with whatever happens. But for what it's worth, I think it's the best chance we've got. The Goa'uld fight with overwhelming force because they can. Take that away, make them fight on even terms, that's when we win. Kodai closed his eyes briefly, feeling the weight of command that never got lighter no matter how many times you carried it. The wave motion gun represented everything his crew had struggled with, the temptation of overwhelming power, the moral calculation of ends versus means, the question of whether survival justified any action. But this was different. Not destruction for victory's sake, but a tactical use that might save countless lives by preventing Anubis from claiming technology that could threaten infinite Earths. The calculus shifted from offensive to defensive, from annihilation to preservation. We do it, Kodai said, opening his eyes. But I want every calculation triple-checked. I want fail-safes built into fail-safes. And I want a contingency plan if something goes wrong, a way to collapse the dimensional bridge permanently if we have to. There is one, Daniel said reluctantly. The ancients built a self-destruct mechanism into major facilities. If we activate it, the outpost would detonate with enough force to create a subspace rupture. It would seal the dimensional barriers permanently. But everything within 1,000 kilometers would be destroyed. Including the Yamato if it's in orbit. Then we make sure it doesn't come to that, Kodai said with finality. Shima, coordinate with Colonel Ronson on fleet positioning. Sanada, work with Major Carter on the wave motion gun modifications. Colonel O'Neill, prepare ground defenses. We have perhaps 48 hours before the first System Lord fleet arrives. Let's make sure we're ready. As the chamber erupted into focused activity, Daniel pulled Carter aside. Sam, there's something else. Those fresh inscriptions TLC found, they weren't just a warning. There was a second part one didn't mention. It said, the bridge calls to its builders. Travelers will come. Meaning the dimensional bridge isn't just passive technology. It's actively reaching out across realities. And if it called the Yamato here, Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. What else might it call? What other versions of Earth's defenders might come through? The implications were staggering. Carter looked at the ancient technology surrounding them, feeling for the first time that they weren't just defending an outpost. They were standing at a crossroads of infinite possibilities, where the decisions made in the next few days could affect not just their Earth, but countless others. Above them, the Yamato maintained its vigil, its wave motion gun charging for a shot that had never been attempted. Across the galaxy, System Lord fleets plotted courses toward a prize they barely understood. And somewhere in the dimensional static between realities, other Earths watched through barriers growing thin, wondering if their warriors would also be called to stand against the darkness. The ancients had built this place as a bridge to other worlds. Now it would become a battlefield where the fate of infinite Earths would be decided by the courage of those willing to stand at the gate and say, no further. The countdown had begun. Bratak walked through the Yamato's corridors with the careful attention of a warrior evaluating unfamiliar territory. The old Jaffa master had arrived 2 hours ago via Takare transport, ostensibly to provide tactical advice on Goa'uld fleet movements. But TLC knew his former mentor well enough to recognize genuine curiosity beneath the strategic justification. This vessel is most impressive, Bratak said, his staff weapon held loosely as they passed a weapons maintenance bay where Yamato crew worked alongside Jaffa rebels. It reminds me of the great warships the Goa'uld constructed in ancient times, before they grew complacent with stolen technology and slave labor. These Tauri from another world, they built this themselves. They salvaged their greatest warship from the ocean floor and rebuilt it to voyage between stars, TLC replied. Captain Kodai's crew traveled 148,000 light-years to save their dying Earth. They succeeded against impossible odds. Bratak's eyes gleamed with approval. Then they understand what we fight for. The Jaffa rebellion seeks to prove that those once enslaved can stand as free warriors. This crew has already proven such a thing is possible. He paused at an observation window, looking down at the ancient outpost below. But freedom must be defended, and I fear the storm approaching will test all of us beyond measure. On the Yamato's bridge, that storm was taking shape on the tactical displays. Shima coordinated with multiple intelligence sources, Takare spy reports, Asgard sensor data relayed through Stargate command, and the Yamato's own long-range scanners. The picture was growing worse by the hour. Updated fleet positions, Shima announced. Baal's forces have increased to 7 Hataks, and they've been joined by 3 more motherships bearing the insignia of Lord Kali. That's 10 motherships from the north. Olakan's fleet remains at 4, approaching from galactic east. Combined force, 14 motherships, estimated 200 death gliders, unknown number of Al-Kesh bombers. And Anubis? Kodai asked from the captain's chair. Still no confirmed sighting. Takare intelligence suggests he's holding back, letting the other system lords probe our defenses first. But there are reports of unusual hyperspace distortions in the outer sectors, signatures that match his upgraded mothership design. Carter, who'd practically taken up permanent residence at the Yamato's science station, pulled up comparative data. Captain, a standard HOTAC carries approximately 2,000 personnel and has enough firepower to bombard a planet's surface to ruins in hours. We're looking at a combined force of 20,000 Jaffa warriors, hundreds of fighters, and enough plasma weaponry to overwhelm any conventional defense. The only reason we survived against you was surprise and tactical coordination. This time they will be prepared, Sonata added from engineering. They will have analyzed the battle data, identified our tactical patterns, calculated countermeasures. We cannot rely on the same strategy succeeding twice. Kodai studied the tactical plot, his mind running through scenarios and discarding them as quickly as they formed. Every simulation ended the same way, the Yamato and Prometheus overwhelmed by sheer numbers, the Outpost breached, the dimensional bridge technology claimed by whichever System Lord survived the feeding frenzy. Unless they changed the rules of engagement. Status on the wave motion gun modification, he asked. 72% complete, Sonata replied. Major Carter's team has been exceptional. The dimensional harmonic calculations alone would have taken us weeks. With her help, we should be ready for a test firing within 18 hours. Too long, O'Neill's voice came through from the surface. We just got word from the Takare, Baal's fleet will arrive in approximately 36 hours. Olakin's group is 12 hours behind that. We need that dimensional pulse weapon ready before the first fleet drops out of hyperspace, or this whole plan falls apart. We are pushing the engineering teams as hard as safely possible, Colonel, Kodai replied. But Major Carter insisted on multiple redundancy checks. If the wave motion gun misfires into a dimensional anomaly, we could crack reality like an egg, Carter interjected. I know it's taking time, Captain, but we're literally rewriting the laws of physics here. The wave motion gun channels dimensional phase energy through a superconducting waveguide. We're trying to reverse that process, using the dimensional bridge as a resonance chamber to amplify and redirect the energy. One miscalculation and we don't create a tactical advantage, we create a dimensional singularity. Daniel's voice joined the conversation from the outpost's lower levels. And we still don't fully understand what this facility was designed to do. I found more inscriptions, Captain. The ancients didn't just study dimensional bridges, they were afraid of them. There are warnings carved into the deepest chambers, that which connects all can consume all. I think they shut this place down deliberately, thousands of years ago. We might be reactivating something they decided was too dangerous to use. A heavy silence settled across the communication network. The implications were clear, they were gambling with technology that had scared the most advanced civilization in galactic history. Then we proceed carefully, Kodai said finally. But we proceed. The alternative is letting Anubis claim this technology, and I think we can all agree that's unacceptable. On the Prometheus, Ronson reviewed his own tactical preparations. The ship's magazines had been restocked with ammunition transported through the Stargate, railgun slugs, missiles, F-302 fighter munitions. Every available weapon system had been checked, rechecked, and loaded for sustained combat. It still wouldn't be enough against 14 motherships. Colonel, we're receiving a transmission from the Free Jaffa Enclave on Darshak, his communications officer reported. They're offering military support. 3 Teltacs equipped with enhanced weapons, and approximately 200 Jaffa warriors willing to fight. Ronson felt a spark of hope. Tell them we accept with gratitude. And ask them to spread the word, any Free Jaffa who want to strike a blow against the System Lords are welcome here. This isn't just Earth's fight anymore. In the outpost below, Bratak was making similar appeals. He stood in the ancient chamber, surrounded by Jaffa warriors who'd answered his call, former First Primes, veterans of the rebellion, young fighters who'd never worn the mark of slavery but knew what was at stake. My brothers, Bratak's voice carried the weight of decades spent preparing for this moment. For generations, we were told we fought for gods. We died in their wars, bled for their ambitions, believed our service was sacred. Then we learned the truth, the Goa'uld are not gods, merely parasites who claim divinity through technology and terror. He gestured upward, toward the Yamato visible through the chamber's crystal ceiling. Now we have opportunity to prove what Free Jaffa can achieve. That vessel represents warriors from another Earth, humans like those we were bred to protect, who built a warship without slave labor, who voyage between stars without false gods commanding them. They fight not for glory or conquest, but for survival and honor. The System Lords come to claim their ship, one warrior called out. Should we not let the false gods destroy each other over this prize? And if Anubis claims it? Bratak challenged. If the half-ascended one gains access to dimensional technology, do you think he will be content with one galaxy? He will reach across realities, enslaving infinite worlds, and we will have stood aside because we thought it was not our concern. He planted his staff weapon firmly. I say this, the fight for freedom is never finished. Every battle we win weakens the Goa'uld's claim to godhood. Every time we stand with those who resist tyranny, we prove the Jaffa are more than warriors, we are free people who choose our own destiny. A roar of approval answered him, staff weapons raised in salute. 200 voices declaring defiance against millennia of servitude. TLC watched from the chamber entrance, pride swelling in his chest. The rebellion had grown from a handful of warriors willing to risk everything into a movement that could field armies. And now, at this ancient outpost where dimensions touched and infinite possibilities waited, they would make their stand. On the Yamato, Kodai received reports of the gathering forces. Free Jaffa warriors taking positions around the outpost's perimeter. Takare operatives establishing spy networks to track System Lord movements. Even a few human worlds that had been freed from Goa'uld rule were sending what little military support they could muster. The battle for P4X-639 was becoming something larger than a tactical engagement. It was becoming a symbol, proof that those who stood against the System Lords could fight as equals, that the Goa'uld's millennia of dominance could be challenged by free people working together. But symbols didn't stop plasma torpedoes or defeat armadas. Captain, Sanada's voice pulled Kodai from his thoughts. We have an anomaly. The dimensional bridge is activating on its own, power levels increasing across all ancient systems. Something is responding to our presence. Carter was already at her console, fingers flying across controls. It's the same resonance pattern we detected when you first arrived. The bridge is opening, but we're not controlling it. Something on the other side is. The holographic display erupted with warnings. In the outpost's central chamber, the dimensional bridge flared to life with light that hurt to look at directly. Ancient technology that had slept for millennia suddenly screaming with power that set every sensor shrieking. And through that impossible light, something was coming. Daniel stared at the bridge, his archaeological training warring with the raw impossibility of what he was witnessing. The inscriptions had been right, the bridge calls to its builders. But the ancients were ascended or dead, scattered across the higher planes of existence. So what was answering the call? The light coalesced, solidified, took shape. A figure stepped through the dimensional barrier, human in form but radiating an aura of power that made every ancient device in the outpost pulse in recognition. Not ascended, but something close. Something that existed between physical form and energy, caught in the same half-state that had trapped Anubis. The figure's eyes opened, glowing with inner light. When it spoke, the voice echoed with harmonics that suggested multiple realities speaking as one. This bridge was closed for a reason. You have reopened it. Now others will come, drawn by the resonance, hungry for the power it represents. The Yamato's arrival was not chance. It was called. And those who called it have been waiting for this moment since before your civilizations learned to count stars. The figure began to fade, its warning delivered. But before it vanished completely, it looked directly at Kodai. The weapon you prepare, the dimensional pulse, will work. But know this, every use of the wave motion gun in this reality weakens the barriers between worlds. Fire it too many times, and you will not like what finds its way through. Then it was gone, leaving only the fading glow of ancient technology and a chamber full of people trying to process an impossible warning. O'Neill broke the stunned silence. Okay, so mysterious glowing dude from another dimension says using our super weapon is a bad idea. Anyone else think we should maybe reconsider our plan? We have no other options, Kodai said, his voice harder than he felt. 14 motherships are coming. If we don't disable them, they'll claim this outpost and everything it contains. Including the dimensional bridge. Then we accept the risk, Carter said, though her scientific certainty had been shaken. But Captain, we need to make sure this is the only time we fire the wave motion gun here. One shot to disable the System Lord fleets. After that, we collapse the outpost entirely if we have to, Kodai finished. Seal the dimensional bridge permanently. Even if it means destroying the Yamato to do it. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. His crew exchanged glances, reading the determination in their captain's eyes. They'd signed up for a suicide mission once before, traveling to Iskander with no guarantee of return. This was no different, just another impossible choice in service of a greater good. Above the outpost, the Yamato maintained its vigil, its wave motion gun charging for a shot that might save a galaxy or doom infinite worlds. The countdown continued, and somewhere in hyperspace, System Lord fleets drew closer to a prize they couldn't imagine and a confrontation that would determine whether free people could stand against the gods. The first hyperspace windows opened 38 hours later, blooming across the star system like malignant flowers. Baal's fleet emerged from the void with the calculated precision of a System Lord who'd survived millennia through strategic superiority. 7 Hatak motherships arranged in a battle formation that spoke of experience and arrogance, pyramid hulls gleaming gold against the black, weapons batteries already powering up. On the Yamato's bridge, alarms shrieked their warnings. Shima's tactical display erupted with red markers as his sensors catalogued the threat. 7 motherships confirmed, System Lord Baal's forces. They're holding position at the system's edge, range approximately 1 million kilometers. They're waiting. For the others, Kodai said quietly. He understood the strategy immediately. Baal wasn't attacking because he didn't need to. Why risk his fleet when he could let the other System Lords probe Earth's defenses first, learn from their mistakes, then move in with overwhelming force to claim the prize? 4 hours later, Olakan's fleet dropped out of hyperspace from a different vector. For motherships, their hulls bearing the coralline wave patterns of a Goa'uld who claimed dominion over Earth's oceans. They took position opposite Baal's forces, maintaining careful distance, allies of convenience at best, future enemies once the immediate prize was secured. 11 motherships now, Ronson reported from Prometheus, his voice tight with tension. Anyone else notice they're forming a containment pattern? They're not just here to attack, they're making sure nothing leaves this system. Carter studied the tactical plot from her station aboard the Yamato, her mind racing through strategic calculations. They're treating this like a siege. Cut off escape routes, establish sensor dominance, then methodically reduce our defensive capability until we're forced to surrender the Yamato or watch it be destroyed. Have they attempted communication? Kodai asked. Negative, Shima replied. Though we're detecting significant subspace chatter between the fleets. They're coordinating something. That something became clear 2 hours later when a smaller vessel, a Goa'uld Teltak cargo ship, approached under flag of truce. O'Neill, watching from the outpost, immediately recognized the tactic. It's a messenger. They want to negotiate before the shooting starts. Makes sense, whoever controls the Yamato doesn't want it damaged in the crossfire. The Teltak landed near the outpost's entrance, and from it emerged a single Jaffa warrior carrying a message cylinder. The warrior approached with the stiff formality of one who expected to die delivering his message, but knew duty demanded it anyway. TLC stepped forward to receive the cylinder, recognizing the armor markings. You serve Baal, TLC stated. As you once served Apophis, the warrior replied. Before you became Sholvier, traitor to your god. I am no traitor, for the Goa'uld are no gods. I serve humanity and freedom. But deliver your message, I will not strike one who comes under truce. The warrior handed over the cylinder, turned sharply, and returned to his teltac without another word. Within minutes, the cargo ship had rejoined Baal's fleet. In the Outpost's command center, O'Neill opened the cylinder and pulled out a holographic projector. Baal's face materialized above it, sharp features, calculating eyes, the smug confidence of a system lord who'd cloned himself dozens of times as insurance against mortality. Humans of the Tauri, Baal's recorded voice began. I acknowledge your recent accomplishments. Destroying U's mothership required skill and fortune in equal measure. But you face now not one system lord, but three. Lord Olakan and Lady Kali have allied with me for this singular purpose, to claim the vessel you call Yamato and the ancient technology it represents. The hologram shifted, showing tactical displays of the gathered fleets. 11 motherships, with 3 more en route. Over 300 death gliders. 50 Al-Kesh bombers. 20,000 Jaffa warriors loyal to their gods. Against this, you have 2 primitive warships and a handful of rebels. The mathematics of your defeat are absolute. Baal's expression shifted to something almost resembling respect. But I am not without mercy. Surrender the Yamato intact, along with all technical data on its dimensional drive system. In exchange, I will spare your lives. You may return to your Earth through the Chapai. The Jaffa rebels may go into exile. Even the Yamato's crew will be permitted to serve as consultants in understanding their vessel's operation. As hosts, TLC growled. He offers slavery dressed as mercy. Your alternative, Baal continued, is complete annihilation. We will reduce your position to radioactive ash. The Yamato will be destroyed rather than allowed to fall into rival hands. And every human world in this sector will suffer for your defiance as an example to others who might consider resistance. He leaned forward. You have 12 hours to decide. I suggest you choose wisely. The hologram vanished. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then O'Neill laughed, short, bitter, and utterly without humor. Well, that's new. Usually the Goa'uld just show up and start shooting. Must really want that ship intact if Baal's willing to actually negotiate. It is a trap, Bratak said from his position near the entrance. Baal seeks to learn our defensive capabilities before committing his forces. The moment we reveal weakness, he will attack regardless of any agreement. Agreed, Kodai said through the comm system. But it also tells us something important, they're afraid. 3 system lords don't unite and offer surrender terms unless they recognize a genuine threat. We have something they want but fear to take by force. Carter pulled up new data on her console. Captain, there's more. I've been analyzing the hyperspace signatures from those incoming motherships Baal mentioned. 2 of them match standard HOTAC profiles. But the third, her voice dropped. The third is generating energy readings consistent with Anubis's upgraded mothership design. The name hung in the air like a curse. Anubis, the half-ascended system lord with ancient knowledge, with technology that surpassed even the Asgard, with a fleet that had devastated entire worlds. If he joined this battle, the tactical situation shifted from desperate to hopeless. How long until he arrives? Kodai asked. 18 hours. Maybe less. Carter's fingers were white-knuckled on her console. Captain, we need to execute the dimensional pulse plan now. Before Anubis gets here, before the other fleets coordinate their assault. It's our only chance. The wave motion gun modifications are complete. 94%, Sonata replied from engineering. We can fire, but I cannot guarantee perfect harmonic resonance with the dimensional bridge. The margin for error is unacceptable under any normal circumstances, Kodai finished. But these aren't normal circumstances. How long to reach optimal firing position? The Yamato would need to descend to within 500 kilometers of the outpost, close enough that the wave motion gun's dimensional wave can interface with the ancient bridge systems. We plot the firing solution now, move into position in approximately 3 hours. O'Neill's voice cut through the planning. Captain, if you're going to do this, do it before Baal's deadline expires. Once that 12 hours is up, those fleets are going to move whether we're ready or not. Surprise is the only advantage we've got left. Kodai stood from his command chair, feeling the weight of the decision settle onto his shoulders like physical mass. The wave motion gun, modified, untested, aimed at dimensional barriers that scared the ancients themselves. One shot to disable 14 motherships and buy time for Earth's defenders. One shot that might crack reality itself if the calculations were wrong. He thought of his crew, who'd followed him across 148,000 light-years on faith and duty. He thought of Earth, both his Earth, saved from radiation death, and this Earth, fighting a galaxy-spanning war for survival. He thought of the countless other Earths that might exist beyond dimensional barriers, all potentially threatened if Anubis claimed this technology. Battle stations, Kodai said quietly. All hands, prepare for wave motion gun firing sequence. Prometheus, establish defensive perimeter around our firing position. Colonel O'Neill, evacuate all non-essential personnel from the outpost through the Stargate. If this goes wrong. We know the risks, Captain, O'Neill interrupted. Do what you came here to do. We'll handle the rest. The Yamato's engines flared to life, maneuvering thrusters adjusting the great ship's position with ponderous grace. Slowly, majestically, the battleship began its descent toward the ancient outpost. On the bridge, crew stations reported readiness in calm, professional voices that belied the tension everyone felt. Main gun standing by, Shima reported. Shields at maximum, Sonata confirmed. Dimensional harmonic calculations locked, Carter added, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. In the weapon control room deep in the Yamato's forward section, the wave motion gun powered up. Energy conduits that ran the length of the ship began to glow with building power, dimensional phase generators spinning up to operational frequency. The familiar thrumming that every crew member recognized, the sound of the weapon that had saved them and haunted them in equal measure. On Baal's flagship, sensors detected the Yamato's movement immediately. The System Lords studied the tactical display with narrowed eyes. They're not surrendering, his first prime observed. They're maneuvering toward the planet. Power readings from their forward weapon system are increasing, another Jaffa reported. Energy output exceeding anything in our database. Baal's expression shifted from calculation to alarm. He'd reviewed the battle footage from Yu's death, had seen the Yamato's conventional weapons in action. But the readings now showing on his sensors suggested something far beyond shock cannons and torpedoes. All ships, prepare to engage. Baal commanded. Target that vessel's forward section, they're preparing to fire some kind of superweapon. Destroy them before they can complete the firing sequence. 11 motherships began moving simultaneously, their tactical coordination impressive despite being enemies under any other circumstances. Death gliders launched in swarms, streams of fighters pouring from hangar bays like angry insects. Plasma batteries powered up, ready to unleash devastation. But they were too late. On the Yamato, Kodai watched the tactical display show enemy fleets beginning their attack run. They'd need perhaps 8 minutes to close to effective weapons range. The wave motion gun firing sequence required 7 minutes and 30 seconds. 30 seconds. That was the margin between success and annihilation. All crew, secure for wave motion gun firing, Kodai announced, his voice echoing through every deck. May fortune favor the courageous. The traditional blessing before battle. The words his crew had heard before firing at enemy fleets, before jumping through dimensional rifts, before facing impossible odds. Words that carried the weight of sacrifice and duty. The wave motion gun's energy levels climbed toward critical. The dimensional bridge below began to resonate in sympathy, ancient technology responding to power it recognized. Reality itself seemed to tremble, the barriers between dimensions growing thin. In the void above, 300 death gliders screamed toward the Yamato in a wave of fury and desperation. 11 motherships accelerated to weapons range, plasma batteries charging. And somewhere beyond the system's edge, Anubis's mothership drew closer, its half-ascended master sensing something momentous approaching. Energy at maximum, Sonata reported. Dimensional harmonics locked. Captain, we're ready to fire. Kodai's hand moved to the firing authorization control. One press of that button, and everything would change. The Yamato would fire a weapon that had destroyed planets, but aimed at dimensional barriers instead of targets. The wave would pulse outward, disabling every advanced system within range, including their own. They would be helpless afterward, drifting on basic thrusters, their shields down, their weapons offline. The Goa'uld would be equally disabled, but there were 11 motherships to their 2 ships. Once conventional combat began, the mathematics of attrition favored overwhelming numbers. But it was the only chance they had. Fire, Kodai said. The wave motion gun fired. The wave motion gun's dimensional wave didn't move like conventional energy. It didn't travel, it propagated, reality itself rippling outward from the point of firing like a stone dropped into infinite water. The beam struck the dimensional bridge with a sound that existed beyond hearing, a harmonic frequency that resonated through subspace and normal space simultaneously. For a single crystalline moment, Carter watched through the Yamato's viewports as dimensional barriers became visible, gossamer walls between realities shimmering into perception as the wave disrupted their fundamental structure. She saw other Earths in those barriers, caught glimpses of alternate histories flickering past too quickly to comprehend. Worlds where the Goa'uld had won. Worlds where humanity had ascended. Worlds where the Stargate had never been discovered. Then the wave expanded outward at faster-than-light propagation, and everything stopped working. The Yamato's main systems died instantly. Bridge lights flickered to emergency power, casting everything in red illumination. The omnipresent hum of the wave motion engine fell silent for the first time since they'd entered this dimension. Every console showing advanced sensor data went dark. Emergency power only, Sonata reported, his voice calm despite the crisis. Wave motion engine offline. Main weapons offline. Shields collapsed. Life support functioning on backup systems. We're running on chemical batteries and basic fusion generators, 1970s level technology. As planned, Kodai said, though hearing his ship rendered helpless still sent ice through his veins. Helm, do we have maneuvering thrusters? Basic propulsion only, Captain. We can maintain position but complex maneuvers are impossible. On the Prometheus, Ronson experienced the same cascading failure. Every system more advanced than a combustion engine simply stopped responding. The Asgard-designed hyperdrive went dark. Shield generators flickered and died. Even the railgun's electromagnetic acceleration systems failed, leaving only the ship's missile tubes and conventional chemical propellants operational. Well, that worked, Ronson said into the suddenly quiet bridge. We just knocked ourselves back to the Apollo era. Someone tell me the Goa'uld got hit worse. They had. Across the system, 11 Hawtak motherships went dark simultaneously. Their pyramid hulls still gleamed in starlight, but the golden glow of active systems had vanished. Hyperdrives failed mid-calculation. Shield generators collapsed. Plasma weaponry that relied on Nequata-based energy matrices became useless metal. 300 death gliders suddenly found themselves flying with basic chemical thrusters, their sophisticated targeting computers replaced by manual gunsights. On Baal's flagship, emergency lighting cast everything in dim red. The System Lord stood frozen at his throne, staring at dead control panels with an expression of absolute disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. All systems, everything is offline. Not everything, my lord, his first prime reported, checking a weapon manually. Staff weapons still function, their Naquata crystals generate power independently. Basic life support remains operational. But shields, engines, sensors, all advanced systems are disabled. How long? Unknown. The disruption appears to be affecting subspace itself. Until that clears. We're helpless, Baal finished. He looked at the tactical display, now a simple visual scope showing ship positions by reflected light rather than sophisticated sensors. The Yamato hung near the planet, equally disabled. Prometheus drifted nearby, also dark. But so are they. And we have numbers. First Prime, signal all ships. We go to manual combat protocols. Launch all ground forces, take that outpost by direct assault. If we cannot claim the Yamato intact, we'll seize the ancient facility and the dimensional bridge technology. The First Prime slammed fist to chest in salute. Within minutes, Teltac cargo ships began launching from the mothership hangar bays, smaller craft whose basic systems still functioned. Each carried 50 Jaffa warriors armed with staff weapons and the discipline of millennia. 20 Teltacs, 1,000 Jaffa, descending toward the ancient outpost in waves. On the ground, O'Neill watched them come through the crystalline ceiling of the main chamber. Well, here comes the neighborhood. TLC, how many Jaffa you figure? At least 1,000, O'Neill. Perhaps more. They will attempt to overwhelm our position through numerical superiority. Against 200 free Jaffa, 30 SGC personnel, and some very angry ancient automated defenses. O'Neill checked his P-90's magazine. I've had worse odds. Once. Maybe. Bratak appeared beside them, his staff weapon held ready. The Jaffa who come serve false gods out of fear or ignorance. We fight for freedom and truth. That makes us stronger than any numbers they can field. The first Teltac landed 200 meters from the outpost entrance. Its cargo ramp dropped, and 50 Jaffa warriors poured out in disciplined formation. They advanced with the precision of elite troops, staff weapons raised, armor gleaming. Then they reached the perimeter defense line. The ancient drone weapons activated with a high-pitched whine. 6 drones, sleek yellow cylinders of ancient technology, launched from hidden emplacements. They moved with impossible agility, guided by sensors that didn't rely on advanced subspace technology. The drones struck Jaffa warriors with pinpoint accuracy, each impact explosive and lethal. Ancient weapons still function. Bratak called out. The drones operate on different principles than Goa'uld technology. But there were only 24 drones in the outpost's armory. They accounted for 30 Jaffa before their power cells depleted, and there were 970 warriors still coming. Fall back to the secondary defensive line. O'Neill ordered. Use the ancient architecture for cover, those columns are made of stuff tougher than titanium. The free Jaffa retreated in good order, taking positions among the crystalline structures. Staff weapon fire began exchanging between the two forces. Energy blasts that carved chunks from ancient columns, explosions that lit the dim chamber with orange fire. Carter, still aboard the Yamato, monitored what she could through basic visual scopes. Captain, Colonel O'Neill's forces are outnumbered 5-1. They can hold for maybe an hour before they're overwhelmed. Can we provide orbital support? Negative. Our main guns require advanced targeting systems. At this range, firing blindly would be as likely to hit our own people. We'd need to, she stopped, an idea forming. Captain, the Yamato still has chemical explosive torpedoes, right? Weapons that don't rely on advanced technology. Yes, but without guidance systems, they're unguided munitions. We'd need visual targeting and manual calculations. Then let's do it the old way, Carter said, pulling out a calculator and paper. I'll work the ballistics. We don't need precision, we need suppressing fire to break up Jaffa formations before they reach the outpost. Shima was already at his console, pulling up visual scopes. I have eyes on enemy landing zones. Feeding coordinates to Major Carter now. Captain, this will require extremely precise timing. Then we won't miss, Kodai said simply. Weapons, load chemical torpedoes in tubes 1 through 6. Prepare for manual firing solution. On the Prometheus, Ronson had the same idea. Missiles away. Visual targeting only, aim for clustered teltacks on the surface. Even if we miss the ships, the blast radius should disrupt their formations. Chemical rockets streaked down from orbit, technology from the 1960s deployed by starships in the 2000s. They struck with primitive efficiency, creating massive explosion craters across the landing zones. 3 teltacks disappeared in fireballs. Jaffa formations scattered, their disciplined advance breaking into chaos. But more kept coming. Baal had 11 motherships and thousands more warriors to commit. This was attrition warfare, the oldest and most brutal kind. In the outpost, the free Jaffa held their line through sheer determination. These were warriors who'd cast off millennia of false servitude, who'd chosen freedom knowing it might cost their lives. They fought with the intensity of those defending something more precious than survival, defending the right to choose their own destiny. Bratak moved through the battle like a force of nature, his staff weapon finding targets with the precision of decades of combat experience. Beside him, younger Jaffa who'd never known slavery fought to ensure no one would know it again. For freedom. Bratak's voice rang out above the weapon's fire. For the future. The rallying cry was taken up by 200 voices. Even the SGC personnel, not understanding the Jaffa language, heard the conviction and added their own defiance. Then Daniel's voice cut through the combat chatter, panic-edged and urgent. Jack! The dimensional bridge, it's activating again. Something's coming through. In the main chamber, the ancient bridge flared with light. The dimensional barriers, already weakened by the wave motion gun's pulse, tore open completely. And through that tear, something massive began to emerge. Another ship. Not Goa'uld. Not Earth design. This vessel was sleek and predatory, its hull bearing design language that screamed ancient heritage but with modifications that suggested combat adaptation. It was perhaps half the Yamato's size, bristling with weapons, and as it materialized fully into their reality, every ancient sensor in the outpost screamed recognition signals. What the hell is that? O'Neill demanded. Daniel stared at the vessel, his mind racing through ancient databases he'd memorized. It's... Jack, that's an Aurora-class warship. The ancients built them 10,000 years ago as military vessels. But they should all be gone, destroyed or abandoned when the ancients ascended. The warship hung in the air above the outpost, its weapons tracking across the battlefield. Then a voice, clear, female, speaking English with an accent that suggested European origin, came through on all frequencies. This is Commander Everett of the Aurora-class warship Tria. We detected dimensional barriers failing and responded to investigate. What we find is unexpected. Goa'uld forces attacking what appears to be Lantean technology. Someone explain, quickly, or we'll assume hostile intent from all parties. Carter grabbed a radio. Commander Everett, this is Major Samantha Carter, United States Air Force, Stargate Command. The Goa'uld are attempting to capture ancient dimensional bridge technology. We're defending this outpost alongside allies. We could really use some help right now. A pause. Then, Stargate Command. Yes, we've heard of you. The Tauri who discovered the gate and began exploring. Very well, Major Carter. Tria will provide fire support. All Goa'uld forces, you have 10 seconds to withdraw or be destroyed. The Jaffa, not understanding the warning and seeing only another enemy vessel, continued their advance. Some raised staff weapons toward the ancient warship. Your mistake, Commander Everett said coldly. The Tria opened fire. Ancient drone weapons, hundreds of them, launched from the warship's bays. They moved with the sophisticated guidance systems that still functioned on ancient technology, each drone an independently targeted precision strike. Jaffa warriors didn't have time to scream as golden cylinders struck with explosive force. In 30 seconds, 500 Jaffa died. The survivors broke and ran, all formation discipline shattered by the overwhelming firepower. Teltax attempted emergency launches, only to be intercepted by drone strikes that reduced them to falling debris. On Baal's flagship, the System Lord watched his ground assault evaporate and made a decision that would haunt him. Full retreat. All ships, withdraw to the system's edge. Now. My lord, our hyperdrives are non-functional. I know. Use basic thrusters. Get us out of range of that ancient vessel before it decides motherships are next on its target list. The 11 Hotaks began limping away on chemical propulsion, their retreat slow and humiliating but necessary. The Tria tracked them with weapons but held fire, apparently satisfied with driving them off rather than pursuing total destruction. In the outpost, stunned silence fell. The Free Jaffa warriors stared at the ancient warship hovering protectively above them. O'Neill slowly lowered his P-90, his brain struggling to process what had just happened. Daniel, did an ancient warship from 10,000 years ago just save our asses? Yes. Yes, it did. Okay. Just checking. The Tria began descending toward the outpost's landing platform. As it settled onto ancient docking clamps that recognized and accepted it, a hatch opened and figures emerged. The leader was a woman in her 40s, wearing a uniform that mixed ancient design with practical military modifications. Behind her came a crew that looked human but carried themselves with the confidence of those who commanded technology millennia beyond conventional understanding. Commander Everett approached O'Neill and snapped a crisp salute. Colonel, I presume. Commander Elizabeth Everett, captain of the Tria. We've been drifting between dimensions for quite some time after a failed hyperdrive experiment. When we detected the dimensional barriers weakening, we managed to navigate back to what we thought was our home reality. She looked around at the ancient outpost, at the mixed force of humans and Jaffa, at the disabled Yamato visible through the crystalline ceiling. I'm beginning to think we took a wrong turn somewhere. O'Neill returned the salute, a grin spreading across his face despite exhaustion. Commander, I don't care what dimension you're from. Your timing is impeccable. Welcome to P4X639, where we're currently defending ancient technology from snakehead false gods, and we just knocked all the advanced tech in the system offline with a dimensional pulse weapon. You'll fit right in. Above them, the Yamato drifted in silence, its systems slowly beginning to recover as the dimensional disruption faded. Kodai watched the ancient warship on visual scopes, his tactical mind already calculating how this changed everything. They'd gambled on the wave motion gun pulse to level the playing field. They'd succeeded, but at the cost of their own capabilities. The Goa'uld had retreated, but they'd be back once systems recovered. And somewhere beyond the system's edge, Anubis approached with technology that might be resistant to dimensional disruption. But now they had an ancient warship crewed by humans who knew how to use it. The equation had shifted again. The battle for the dimensional bridge was far from over. But for the first time since this began, Kodai felt something like hope. Anubis's mothership dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge exactly 19 hours after the dimensional pulse. The vessel was larger than standard Hotaks, its hull black and angular where others were gold and pyramidal. Technology scavenged from ancient databases had transformed it into something that blurred the line between Goa'uld engineering and Lantean war machine. On the bridge, the half-ascended System Lord studied tactical displays that still functioned despite the lingering dimensional disruption. His technology, built with partial ancient knowledge, had adapted faster than conventional Goa'uld systems. He saw Baal's fleet limping at the system's edge, their motherships running on minimal power. He saw the Yamato and Prometheus in orbit over P4X639, their systems recovering. And he saw the Tria, an Aurora-class warship that should not exist in this reality. Fascinating, Anubis said, his voice layered with harmonics that suggested something more than physical speech. The dimensional bridge has been more active than my intelligence suggested. Not merely the Yamato, but an ancient warship as well. This facility has become a crossroads for alternate realities. His first prime, a Kull warrior, genetically engineered super soldier in black armor, stood impassively. My lord, the other system lords await your command. Baal requests coordination for renewed assault. Baal is a fool who thinks in terms of fleets and firepower. This situation requires subtlety. Anubis turned to a console, his glowing eyes reflecting ancient text scrolling across screens. The dimensional pulse weapon the Yamato fired, it originated from their wave motion gun, did it not? A weapon capable of destroying planets, repurposed to disrupt technology. Elegant. Desperate. And ultimately insufficient. He touched controls, and holographic displays showed energy patterns invisible to conventional sensors. The dimensional barriers are failing. Not catastrophically, but progressively. Each time the wave motion gun fires in proximity to that bridge, it weakens reality's structure. The ancients abandoned this facility for precisely this reason. They recognized the danger of too much dimensional manipulation in one location. Then we should withdraw, my lord. Withdraw. Anubis laughed, the sound carrying madness and brilliance in equal measure. No. We accelerate the collapse. If the barriers fail completely, infinite realities converge. And in that convergence, I will claim technology from countless Earths, knowledge from infinite ancients, power beyond even ascended beings. The Yamato and the Tria are merely the first prizes. I will have them all. On the Yamato, systems were slowly coming back online. Sanada monitored each restart carefully, ensuring the dimensional disruption hadn't caused permanent damage. The wave motion engine hummed to life first, its dimensional phase generators stabilizing. Then shields, weapons, sensors, each system checking green after tense minutes of uncertainty. All primary systems operational, Sanada reported. Wave motion gun requires 4 hours to fully recharge, but shock cannons and torpedoes are ready. Captain, we're combat capable again. Kodai felt relief wash through him, followed immediately by renewed tension. If the Yamato's systems had recovered, so had the Goa'ulds. Tactical update. Shima's sensors painted the strategic picture. Baal's fleet has restored main power and is regrouping. Alakan's forces are coordinating with them. I'm reading active communication between all 11 motherships. And sir, there's a new contact at the system's edge. Configuration matches intelligence reports on Anubis's upgraded mothership. He's here, Carter said quietly from her station. She'd been working with Commander Everett for the past 12 hours, coordinating defensive strategies between the Yamato, Prometheus, and Tria. That's the worst-case scenario. Anubis with a fleet of system lords backing him up. Not backing him, Daniel corrected from the surface. He'd been studying ancient records in the Outpost's database, and what he'd found made his hands shake. Jack, the Goa'uld don't form genuine alliances, they use each other. Anubis just let Baal and the others probe our defenses, learn our capabilities, exhaust our resources. Now he moves in to claim the prize while they're weakened from fighting us. O'Neill's voice carried dark humor. So the snakeheads are going to start shooting each other. Anyone else want to just grab popcorn and watch? We would, Ronson interjected from Prometheus, except Anubis will happily destroy all of us along with the other system lords. His upgraded mothership has shields that withstood multiple HOTAC bombardments in previous engagements. Conventional weapons barely scratch it. Commander Everett's voice joined the tactical network, her accent crisp with command authority. Then we use unconventional weapons. The Tria has drone weapons that can adapt targeting parameters mid-flight. Ancient technology designed specifically to counter shields. If we coordinate fire between all 3 ships. It still might not be enough, Carter said. Anubis has partial ancient knowledge. He'll have countermeasures we haven't seen before. Kodai listened to the discussion, his mind cycling through tactical scenarios. 3 ships against Anubis's mothership and 11 System Lord Hatax was suicide by any conventional analysis. But conventional analysis hadn't anticipated dimensional bridges, alternate reality warships, or wave motion guns repurposed as area denial weapons. The dimensional bridge, Kodai said suddenly. Daniel, you said it's failing, weakening with each disruption. What happens if it fails completely? Based on the ancient warnings, reality barriers collapse. Multiple dimensions converge on this point. Could be catastrophic, we might get dimensional rifts, timeline merges, or worse. Or, Kodai said slowly, we could get more ships from other realities. The tria came through when the barriers weakened. What if there are other vessels, other versions of Earth's defenders, waiting on the other side? What if we deliberately open the bridge wider? Silence greeted the suggestion. Then Carter's voice, cautious but intrigued, Captain, are you proposing we intentionally destabilize dimensional barriers to summon reinforcements from alternate Earths? I'm proposing we use the dimensional bridge for its intended purpose, as a gateway between realities. The ancients built it to contact other Earths. We have perhaps 2 hours before Anubis attacks. If we can call for help, we might get help, O'Neill finished. Or we might get alternate reality Goa'uld. Or versions of ourselves that are total bastards. Dimensional roulette is not a great tactical plan, Captain. Neither is fighting 14 motherships with 3 ships, Kodai countered. Commander Everett, your vessel came through the bridge. Could you replicate the process? Send a signal that might attract other Earth ships from alternate dimensions? Everett was quiet for a moment, consulting with her crew. Possibly. The tria's hyperdrive is modified for dimensional navigation, we've been drifting between realities for months. We could amplify a signal through the bridge, broadcast on frequencies that would attract vessels capable of dimensional travel. But Captain Kodai, we'd be opening a door without knowing what's on the other side. Every door we've opened in this war has been like that, TLC observed. Yet we continue to open them, because the alternative is surrender to tyranny. Bratak's voice added weight to the decision. I have fought the Goa'uld for over 130 years. I have seen system lords rise and fall, seen rebellion crushed and rekindled, seen free Jaffa die for the chance that their children might live without slavery. If there is even possibility of aid from other worlds, other Earths that also fight for freedom, we must take that chance. Kodai felt the weight of command pressing down, the terrible mathematics of leadership where every decision carried lives in the balance. They could hold position, fight with what they had, and likely die when Anubis's superior technology overwhelmed them. Or they could gamble everything on a dimensional broadcast, hoping that somewhere across infinite realities, Earth's defenders would hear and answer. Do it, Kodai said. Commander Everett, broadcast your signal. Call any Earth ship that can hear across dimensional barriers. Tell them we're fighting to protect ancient technology from falling into the hands of a false god, and we need help. Understood. Tria will begin signal broadcast immediately. Major Carter, I'll need your help coordinating power flow from the ancient outpost. We'll use the dimensional bridge as an amplifier. As the 2 women began technical coordination, Shima's tactical board lit up with new warnings. Captain, Anubis's mothership is moving. Accelerating toward our position. The other System Lord fleets they're not following. They're holding position. Anubis is making his move, Carter said. He's going to claim the outpost and both dimensional technologies before the other Goa'uld can interfere. Classic System Lord strategy, let others fight and weaken themselves, then strike when victory is assured. Time until he reaches weapons range? Kodai asked. 90 minutes at current velocity. In the outpost's central chamber, the dimensional bridge began pulsing with renewed energy. Ancient technology channeled power from the Tria systems, amplifying a signal that propagated outward through weakened reality barriers. The message was simple, repeated across frequencies that existed between dimensions. This is Commander Elizabeth Everett of the Aurora-class warship Tria to any Earth vessel capable of receiving this transmission. We are engaged in defense of ancient dimensional technology against hostile forces. Multiple realities are at risk. If you can hear this message, if you serve Earth and humanity, we need your help. Coordinates follow. The signal rippled outward through dimensional barriers, touching realities where the broadcast might find ears willing to listen. Earths where the Stargate program had taken different paths. Earths where other heroes had risen. Earths where technology had advanced along alternate paths but the fundamental commitment to protect humanity remained constant. And across those infinite variations, some heard. In one dimension, a massive space station armed with ancient drone weapons detected the signal. In another, a fleet of Earth ships built from reversed-engineered Asgard technology triangulated the source. In a third, something that wasn't quite human but remembered being human paused its eternal vigil and considered the call. On P4X639, in the reality that had become a crossroads, those watching the dimensional bridge saw it flare with light. Not the gentle pulse of incoming signals, but the blazing fury of multiple realities tearing open simultaneously. The barriers between dimensions, already weakened, gave way completely. Hyperspace windows opened, not conventional hyperspace, but dimensional rifts that shouldn't exist according to any physics textbook. And through those rifts, ships began emerging. The first was a Daedalus-class battlecruiser, its hull bearing the name Korolev and Russian Federation markings. It dropped into normal space with weapons already powered up, shields at maximum. A Russian-accented voice came through on all frequencies. This is Colonel Chekhov of Earth ship Korolev. We received distress call. Where is enemy? The second was something sleeker, more advanced, a BC-304 design but modified with technology that looked Asgard but wasn't quite. The hull bore both Earth and unfamiliar alien markings. Earth ship Sun Tzu, reporting as requested. We bring greetings from the Earth-Jaffa alliance of our dimension. Who needs shooting? The third made Carter's breath catch. It was an Aurora-class warship like the Tria, but its hull bore damage from countless battles, repaired with whatever materials had been available. The voice that came through was male, exhausted, but carrying absolute determination. This is the Aurora, last survivor of the Lantean fleet in our reality. We've been fighting the Wraith for 10,000 years. If you're asking for help against tyrants, we know that war well. More rifts opened. More ships emerged. Earth vessels from dimensions where the war against the Goa'uld had gone differently, where alliances had formed with different alien species, where technology had advanced along alternate paths. Not all of them were human-crewed. Some bore the marks of civilizations the mainstream timeline had never encountered. But all of them had heard the call and answered. Within 5 minutes, the tactical situation had transformed. Kodai counted 12 new vessels, ranging from modified Hotaks bearing free Jaffa markings to ships whose technology he couldn't even identify. Against 14 System Lord Motherships, they'd been facing annihilation. Now the mathematics looked very different. On Anubis's bridge, alarms shrieked warnings about dimensional rifts and incoming vessels. The half-ascended Goa'uld stared at tactical displays showing ship after ship materializing around P4X639. His glowing eyes narrowed with something between fury and fascination. They've turned the dimensional bridge into a beacon, he said softly. Called defenders from across infinite Earths. Clever. Desperate. And ultimately futile. He turned to his first prime. Signal the other System Lords. Tell them if they wish any share of the prize, they must commit now. All ships, attack formation. We end this before more reinforcements arrive. 14 motherships began accelerating toward the planet, their combined firepower enough to sterilize worlds. But now they faced not 3 ships, but 15. Not a desperate last stand, but an actual fleet. All ships, Commander Everett's voice rang out with command authority that crossed dimensional barriers. This is tactical coordination. Unknown vessels, transmit capability data immediately. We're forming a defensive sphere around the ancient outpost. Anyone who's fought System Lords before, you know the drill. Everyone else, follow our lead and learn fast. Today we show these false gods what happens when Earth stands united across infinite realities. The void above P4X 639 erupted with movement as ships maneuvered into formation. The Yamato took point position, its wave motion gun charging. Prometheus and the Tria flanked it, forming a central strike group. The alternate reality vessels spread into defensive wings, their various technologies creating a patchwork fleet that shouldn't work together but somehow did. And through it all, the dimensional bridge continued pulsing, its light visible even from space. A beacon of hope and a warning. The crossroads where infinite Earths converged to defend themselves against tyranny. Anubis's fleet closed to weapons range, and the void lit up with fire. The battle for P4X 639 began with a silence that felt like the galaxy holding its breath, then erupted into violence that would be recorded in the archives of a dozen realities. Anubis's mothership fired first, upgraded weapons that channeled ancient knowledge into destructive force beyond conventional Goa'uld technology. Beams of coherent energy lanced toward the defensive formation, each shot carrying enough power to overwhelm standard Hatak shields in seconds. Evasive. Kodai commanded, and the Yamato rolled with ponderous grace, its dimensional phase shields shimmering as they deflected the strike. Not perfectly, the ship shuddered under partial impact, damage reports flooding in from sections 7 and 12. But they held. Prometheus and the Tria returned fire simultaneously. Railgun slugs and ancient drones crossed the void in convergent trajectories, hammering Anubis's shields with combined force. The upgraded mothership's defenses held, but the sustained barrage created visible ripples in the golden barrier. His shields are adapting, Carter reported, her fingers flying across sensor controls. Every hit teaches his systems how to better deflect the next one. Ancient technology with Goa'uld ruthlessness, he's built something that learns from combat. Then we teach it lessons it cannot survive, Colonel Chekhov's voice came through from the Korolev. The Russian battlecruiser unleashed a barrage of missiles, not conventional Earth ordnance, but weapons that streaked with blue-white contrails suggesting technological exchange with species the mainstream timeline had never encountered. They struck Anubis's shields and detonated in cascades of exotic energy that made the barrier flicker and strain. The 11 System Lord motherships joined the engagement, spreading their forces to engage the alternate reality vessels. Baal's ships targeted the Sun Tzu, recognizing its hull configuration as modified Hatak and taking offense at humans commanding Goa'uld designs. Olakin's fleet engaged the damaged Aurora, perhaps sensing weakness in its battle-worn hull. They learned quickly that weakness was relative. The Aurora moved with the desperate efficiency of a ship that had survived 10,000 years of warfare through skill rather than superior technology. Its ancient weapons had been maintained through improvisation and necessity, its crew descended from Lanteans who'd never ascended but never surrendered. When Olakin's Hataks opened fire, the Aurora didn't attempt to tank the damage, it danced through the plasma barrage with maneuvers that spoke of countless battles, returning fire with drones that struck with surgical precision. One of Olakin's motherships lost shields entirely, its golden barrier collapsing as ancient weapons exploited every weakness. The Aurora pressed the advantage mercilessly, drone weapons carving through exposed hull plating until secondary explosions bloomed across the Hatak surface. The mothership broke apart in sections, debris spinning into the void as 2,000 Jaffa and human hosts died in decompressive explosive silence. One down, the Aurora's captain reported, his voice flat with exhaustion that came from fighting an eternal war. 13 to go. We've done worse odds. On the Yamato's bridge, Shima tracked the tactical situation with mounting concern. Captain, the alternate reality ships are engaging effectively, but they're not coordinated. Each vessel fights independently, no unified battle plan, no tactical integration. They're from different dimensions, Carter said, understanding the problem immediately. Different training doctrines, different communication protocols, different tactical languages. They answered the call, but they've never worked together before. Kodai saw the danger. The System Lords had millennia of experience coordinating fleet actions. Anubis was exploiting the gaps in the Defender's formation, using his superior technology to probe for weaknesses while the other Goa'uld ships engaged piecemeal. If this continued, the combined Earth fleet would be destroyed through tactical isolation despite numerical advantage. "We need unified command," Kodai said. "Someone to coordinate all vessels into a coherent battle plan." He looked at O'Neill's face on the communication screen, saw the same realization dawning. "Oh no," O'Neill said. "No way. I'm Air Force, not Navy. I don't know how to command a space fleet." "Neither do I," Kodai replied. "But you understand Goa'uld tactics. You fought them longer than anyone here. And every ship in this engagement answered Earth's call, they'll respond to Earth's command." "He's right, Colonel," Ronson added from Prometheus. "You're the ranking SGC officer. If anyone can pull this fleet together, it's you." O'Neill stared at the tactical display showing 15 ships engaged against 14 motherships, chaos and courage mixed in equal measure. He'd led SG-1 through impossible missions for 7 years. He'd made calls that saved worlds and sacrificed the few for the many. But coordinating a multidimensional fleet in real-time space combat? "Fine," O'Neill said. "But if we survive this, I'm putting in for that retirement I keep threatening. All ships, this is Colonel Jack O'Neill, Stargate Command. I'm assuming tactical coordination. Acknowledge and transmit current status." One by one, the ships responded. Some in English, some through translation matrices, all acknowledging the authority of Earth's voice. "Good," O'Neill continued, his tactical mind engaging despite his protests. "Here's what we're going to do. Yamato, Prometheus, Tria, you're our heavy hitters, our central strike group. Your job is to keep Anubis busy, make him commit his forces to engaging you. Everyone else, you're going to do what special forces do best, hit fast, hit hard, exploit weaknesses. Chekhov, your Korolev has those fancy missiles, you target System Lord Command ships, take out their coordination. Sun Tzu, Aurora, you've got experience fighting Goa'uld and Wraith, you run interference, keep the smaller Hotax from overwhelming our position." He paused, pulling up sensor data that Carter was feeding him. "And all you ships I can't pronounce or don't recognize, form screening elements. Protect the heavy hitters from glider swarms and bomber runs. This isn't about individual glory. It's about coordinated violence until the bad guys stop moving." Questions? "Duh," Chekhov replied simply. "Is good plan. We begin now." The fleet formation shifted, chaos resolving into purpose. The Yamato, Prometheus, and Tria formed a wedge that drove toward Anubis's mothership like a spear thrust. The alternate reality vessels spread into supporting roles, their diverse capabilities creating a tactical flexibility no single-dimension fleet could match. Anubis saw the shift and recognized the danger. Unified command transformed rabble into army. He needed to break that coordination before it solidified. "All System Lords, converge on the flagship group," Anubis commanded. "Destroy the Yamato, and their formation collapses." The System Lord motherships responded, 11 Hotax accelerating toward the central wedge. Their combined firepower was devastating, plasma torrents that turned void into burning Hell's Cape. The Yamato's shield strained under the onslaught, power levels dropping as Sonata diverted energy from non-essential systems to maintain barriers. "Shields at 40%, Sonata reported, calm despite the crisis. "We cannot sustain this bombardment for long." "We don't need long," Kodai replied. He touched the comm system. "Major Carter, is the wave motion gun fully charged?" "Yes, but Captain, if you fire it here, the dimensional disruption will disable everyone's advanced systems again." "I know. Colonel O'Neill, we're going to fire the wave motion gun into the center of the System Lord formation. It'll create another dimensional pulse, knock out shields and advanced weapons across the engagement sphere. After that, it's conventional combat until systems recover. Pass the word, all ships prepare for technology blackout. You're going to level the playing field again, O'Neill said, understanding immediately. Turn this into a knife fight where training and courage matter more than superior technology. I like it. All ships, prepare for dimensional pulse in 60 seconds. Secure all systems, prepare for emergency power protocols. The Yamato's wave motion gun charged to maximum, its dimensional phase generators building energy that made reality itself tremble. Kodai watched the tactical display showing 11 motherships closing on his position, watched plasma torpedoes streaking toward his ship, watched his crew maintaining discipline despite death approaching at relativistic velocity. Shima, firing solution on the geometric center of the enemy formation. Locked, Captain. Fire. The wave motion gun fired for the second time in this reality, and the universe screamed. The dimensional wave propagated outward in a sphere of disruption that touched every vessel in the engagement. Systems died across both fleets, shields collapsed, advanced sensors went dark, sophisticated weapons fell silent. For the second time, the Yamato went dark except for emergency lighting. But so did every Hatak. So did Anubis's upgraded mothership, its ancient enhanced system succumbing to dimensional disruption that affected technology based on subspace manipulation. All ships, conventional weapons only. O'Neill ordered into the sudden electronic silence. Missiles, railguns, anything that doesn't require advanced targeting. Fire everything. What followed was warfare stripped to its fundamental essence. Chemical rockets and kinetic projectiles crossed void that glowed only with reflected starlight. Ships maneuvered on basic thrusters, guided by visual scopes and manual calculations. Death gliders engaging fighters in dogfights that would have been familiar to pilots from World War II. The Yamato's crew fell back on training that predated their conversion to space battleship, naval gunnery calculations worked by hand, torpedo solutions plotted on paper charts, crew coordination through speaking tubes and runners when electronic communication failed. They'd trained for this, knowing the wave motion gun's pulse would disable their own systems. Now that training proved invaluable. Prometheus fired missile after missile, each one guided by backup optical systems and human reflexes. The Tria launched drones that operated on ancient technology different enough from Goa'uld systems to resist the dimensional disruption partially. The alternate reality ships contributed their own variations, some technologies more affected than others, creating gaps in capability that tactical improvisation had to overcome. And through it all, the dimensional bridge continued pulsing, its light now erratic and unstable. The ancient facility was failing, reality barriers stretched beyond safe limits by repeated dimensional pulses and the convergence of so many alternate realities in one location. Daniel watched from the Outpost's control chamber, his face pale as ancient text scrolled warnings across every still-functioning console. Jack, the dimensional bridge is collapsing. Not gradually, catastrophically. If we don't shut it down in the next 10 minutes, we're going to have a complete barrier failure. Every reality touching this point will merge. Can you shut it down? O'Neill demanded. There's a control sequence, but, Jack, it requires someone to stay here. To manually regulate power distribution while the dimensional energies dissipate. Whoever does it won't have time to evacuate before the facility overloads. The weight of that statement hung in the comm channel. Someone would have to stay behind, would have to die to prevent dimensional catastrophe. I will do it, TLC said immediately. I have lived a long life and freed my people. There is honor in such sacrifice. Negative, Bratak countered. You have years ahead to guide the free Jaffa nation. I am old, and have fought enough battles. This death has meaning, I accept it gladly. Nobody's dying, O'Neill said firmly. Daniel, work the problem. There's got to be another way. In space above, the battle reached its climax. Systems began recovering across both fleets, first basic sensors, then shields, then weapons. But the dimensional pulse had achieved its purpose. 3 more System Lord motherships had been destroyed in conventional combat, their crews unable to adapt when superior technology became unavailable. Anubis's flagship bore damage from sustained bombardment, its shields flickering as they regenerated. And the Earth fleet, though battered, held together through coordination and determination. Kodai watched his own systems coming back online, saw the wave motion gun recharging, saw tactical sensors painting the battlefield in full resolution again. 8 System Lord motherships remained, including Anubis. Against 15 Earth ships of varying capability. "The tide has turned," Shima said quietly. "They're losing." "Then we end it," Kodai replied. "All ships, Anubis's mothership is the key. Concentrate all fire on that vessel. Break his shields and—" "Wait," Carter interrupted. "Captain, look at the dimensional bridge. Oh God, it's opening completely. Not a controlled activation. Full barrier collapse." On every ship sensor, the same image appeared. The dimensional bridge flaring with light that shouldn't exist, ancient technology overloading, reality itself tearing open. And through that tear, something massive began emerging. Not a ship. Something far larger, far older, far more terrible. A structure that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously, that had no single form but infinite variations depending on which reality perceived it. Ancient architecture on a scale that dwarfed planets, constructed by beings who'd mastered dimensional engineering before humanity's ancestors learned to count. "What in the name of?" O'Neill's voice trailed off, awe and terror mixing. Daniel's voice was hushed with archaeological wonder and existential dread. "It's an ancient dimensional nexus. Not an outpost, the outpost was just an interface terminal. This is what the facility connected to. A hub that exists between all realities, built by the ancients at the height of their civilization. Jack, if Anubis claims this, he becomes a god across infinite dimensions," Carter finished. "Actual god, not false god. He'd have access to technology from every reality where the ancients existed, knowledge from infinite variations of the most advanced civilization in galactic history." Anubis's voice came through on all frequencies, carrying triumph and madness. "I thank you, defenders of Earth, for your assistance. You've done what I could not, force the dimensional bridge to fully open, to reveal the nexus beyond. Your resistance ends here. I claim my birthright as an ascended being, access to the totality of ancient knowledge across infinite realities." His mothership accelerated toward the dimensional tear, toward the nexus that promised ultimate power. "No," Kodai said simply. He looked at his crew, saw their understanding, saw their acceptance. "Sonata, redirect all power to the wave motion engine. Helm, plot intercept course. We're going to ram that mothership, push it away from the dimensional tear. Captain, at our current velocity, the collision will destroy both ships." "I know." Kodai's voice carried absolute calm, the serenity of a commander who'd made peace with impossible choices. "But if Anubis reaches that nexus, infinite Earths fall. We came to this dimension by chance, drawn through the bridge by circumstances we didn't understand. Perhaps this was always meant to be our purpose, to stand at this crossroads and ensure the darkness doesn't pass through." Carter stared at him, horror and admiration mixing. "Captain, there has to be another way." "There isn't. Not in the time we have." Kodai touched the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the captain. We've come a long way together. Saved our Earth, voyaged to Iskander and back, protected humanity across 148,000 light-years. Now we have one final mission. We're going to stop Anubis from claiming power that would threaten every Earth across infinite realities. It's been an honor to serve with you. To voyage with you. To call you family." He closed the channel and looked at his crew. Shima at tactical, tears streaming down his face but hands steady on controls. Sonata at engineering, already executing power transfer with calm professionalism. The bridge crew who'd followed him through impossible journeys, now following him into the final one. Yamamoto, launch all Cosmo Falcons, Kodai said quietly. Give the pilots a chance to survive. Everyone else, this is voluntary. Anyone who wants to evacuate, do so now. I won't think less of you. Nobody moved. Not one member of his crew left their post. Then we go together, Kodai said. Full speed. For Earth. For all Earths. The Yamato surged forward, its wave motion engine building velocity that conventional thrusters couldn't match. Anubis's mothership was seconds from reaching the dimensional tear, his half-ascended consciousness already reaching toward the nexus beyond. Then a voice cut through every communication channel, a voice that resonated with power that transcended physical reality, a voice that spoke with the authority of beings who'd watched galaxies form and fade. Anubis. Your arrogance exceeds even your ambition. The dimensional tear rippled, and from it emerged not Anubis's prize but his judgment. Ascended ancients, beings of pure energy who'd evolved beyond physical form, manifested in space through sheer will. Oma Desala among them, the one who'd helped others ascend, who'd been punished for breaking the rules of non-interference. You sought to claim what was sealed for good reason, Oma said, her form brilliant against the dark. The dimensional nexus was abandoned because its power corrupts absolutely. We sealed it across infinite realities to prevent what you would become. You violated the highest laws of the Ascended. Your punishment is complete removal from all planes of existence. Anubis's scream echoed across dimensions as the Ascended beings acted. His half-ascended form was torn from his physical host, his consciousness stripped from the between state that had given him power. In seconds, millennia of accumulated knowledge and ability were erased. The Goa'uld parasite that remained in the host body was just that, a parasite, no longer enhanced by stolen ascension. His mothership went dark, systems dying as their half-ascended master ceased to exist across all forms of reality. The remaining System Lord vessels saw this and made immediate calculations. Without Anubis, without the prize they'd fought for, continuing the battle served no purpose. One by one, they opened hyperspace windows and fled, leaving behind debris and the echo of plasma weapons in their wake. The battle for P4X-639 was over. Kodai ordered the Yamato to full reverse thrust, his suicide run no longer necessary. Around them, the alternate reality ships maintained position, watching as the ascended beings addressed the dimensional tear. The Nexus will be sealed permanently across all realities, Oma declared. The dimensional bridge here will be collapsed safely. Those who came from other dimensions will be returned to their origins, with our gratitude and apology for involving them in this conflict. Her attention focused on the Yamato. Captain Kodai, your willingness to sacrifice everything to protect infinite Earths has not gone unnoticed. We offer you a choice: return to your dimension, or remain here, where your presence has already altered the course of history. Kodai looked at his crew, saw their exhaustion and hope mixed together. We came here by accident, looking for an Earth to save. We found one worth defending. But our own Earth needs us too. If we can go home. We will send you home, Oma confirmed. With the knowledge that your courage today protected countless worlds across infinite realities. Safe journey, defenders of Earth. All Earths. The dimensional tear flared with controlled power, and one by one, the alternate reality ships vanished, returned to their dimensions of origin with memories of a battle where infinite Earth stood united. The Tria chose to remain, Commander Everett deciding her crew belonged in this reality where ancient technology could be properly utilized. The Yamato was last. Kodai watched through his viewports as the dimensional bridge began collapsing safely, ancient technology guided by Ascended will dismantling what had been built millennia ago. The outpost below would remain, but the dimensional gateway would be sealed forever. Then light surrounded the Yamato, the same light that had brought them here now carrying them home. Through dimensional barriers that parted like curtains, across the infinite variations of reality, back to the dimension where their Earth waited. The Yamato materialized in orbit over their Earth, where humanity had survived radiation bombardment and rebuilding continued. Sensor readings confirmed familiar stars, familiar radio signals, familiar everything. They were home. On the bridge, Shima looked at Kodai and smiled through tears. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Defense Headquarters. They're asking where we've been. They say we disappeared 3 days ago during a routine patrol." 3 days, Kodai repeated quietly. He'd fought a war across dimensions, helped defend an alternate Earth, stood at a crossroads where infinite realities converged. And in his own dimension, only 3 days had passed. "Tell headquarters we encountered unusual spatial phenomena and took measures to investigate," Kodai said. "We'll provide a full report upon landing." As the Yamato began its descent toward home, Kodai reflected on what they'd experienced. They'd answered a distress call that led them across dimensional barriers. They'd met another Earth's defenders fighting the same eternal war against tyranny and false gods. They'd stood alongside warriors from across infinite realities, united by shared purpose. The Stargate universe would remember the Yamato as the ship from another dimension that helped save their reality. Free Jaffa would tell stories of the warship whose crew understood fighting for freedom because they'd saved their own world through courage and sacrifice. And somewhere in Stargate Command's classified files, a report would record that for one brief moment, Earth's defenders had been reinforced by allies from across infinite realities. The Yamato's journey had proven something the ancients once knew but had forgotten in their ascension, that courage and commitment to protecting the innocent transcended dimensional barriers, that Earth's defenders existed across infinite variations of reality, and that when called upon, they would answer. As the great ship settled into landing protocols, Kodai looked at the crew who'd followed him through impossible journeys. They'd voyaged to Iskander to save their world. They'd crossed dimensional barriers to help save another. They'd stood at the crossroads of infinite Earths and proven that some things, duty, honor, sacrifice, hope, remained constant across all realities. The Yamato was home. But the mission, the eternal mission to protect Earth and humanity across whatever stars they sailed beneath, would continue. The dimensional bridge on P4X-639 remained sealed, its ancient technology dormant once more under the watchful protection of Stargate Command and the TRIA. The outpost became a monument to what had been defended there, not just technology, but the principle that free people across infinite realities could stand united against those who claimed godhood through power and terror. In the Yamato's final reports, sealed in classified archives on their Earth, Kodai recorded what they'd witnessed. Another Earth fighting a galaxy-spanning war against parasitic false gods. Warriors who'd cast off millennia of slavery to fight for freedom. Technology so advanced it seemed like magic, yet wielded by people who understood its terrible responsibility. And the knowledge that across dimensional barriers, infinite variations of Earth's defenders faced their own impossible wars with the same courage and commitment. The Stargate program gained something valuable from the encounter, proof that their struggle mattered beyond their own reality, that the fight against the Goa'uld was part of a larger pattern where humanity refused to kneel before false divinity. The Free Jaffa rebellion grew stronger, inspired by stories of warriors from another dimension who traveled impossible distances to save their world. And somewhere in the SGC's databases, technical specifications from the Yamato waited for engineers ready to explore dimensional phase technology and wave motion principles. But perhaps most importantly, both Earths learned they weren't alone. Across the infinite variations of reality, wherever humans explored stars and faced threats beyond comprehension, they did so with the same fundamental qualities: courage, ingenuity, determination, and the unwavering commitment to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The Yamato had awakened the Stargate universe to possibilities beyond their own dimension. In return, the Stargate universe had shown the Yamato's crew that their mission, to defend Earth and voyage through stars seeking hope among darkness, resonated across infinite realities. Some journeys end. Others merely pause between destinations. And somewhere in the mathematics of dimensional barriers and the quantum possibilities of infinite Earths, the potential remained for paths to cross again. For defenders of different worlds to stand together when the darkness threatened. For the simple truth that freedom, defended with courage and sacrifice, could never be extinguished so long as even one voice rose to say, no further. The gate had awakened to the Yamato's presence. The Yamato had awakened to infinite Earth's needing defenders. And across the stars of countless realities, that awakening would echo through histories yet to be written, a reminder that when Earth called for help across dimensional barriers, heroes answered. Indeed. More stories await.